in a second.
Okay.
We're live.
Nice.
Bet. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's work on getting whatever you call it up. How do I pull chat up now? Welcome, top of chat. Okay, I see chat. But let's get it pulled up. Okay, we got that. And we have to add another window capture. Add new source. Let's go chat. Streamlabs, OBS Opera. This works. Done. Sorry. Boom. Actually, let's do pop-out chat.
I wish if whenever you forget your password, it's not like reset your password. I just want it to just be like, this is me. Log in, please.
Yes, please. Just let me in. Let me in.
And then it's like, I'm sorry, we have requirements for what the fuck? Passwords do not match.
Pop out. There we go.
You ever worried that you're gonna make your old password the same as your new password? Or
No.
like, that's not what I mean. I don't know why I said that. You ever worried that, when it says re-enter your password, you're gonna make the same mistake you did with your old password?
Oh, okay. I think I get what you mean.
There are, like, I use a. Is that really it? Holy crap.
What?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
just
let's
the
say something in
password that I
chat.
use. You want me to say something in chat?
I just did. Look at that. It appeared on the live stream. Perfect.
Dude, your background is really nice.
Thank you.
I
These are all my
I have.
photos. God.
Oh my god.
Don't you wish you had an animated background like me?
I used to actually, but it was Doom and it was awesome. I still have a Doom back because Doom is the only game I ever play.
I'm lucky in that when I got this PC, it was actually like strong enough that I could actually like run it. Here we go. Let's go full screen on that. How do you like that? How does that setup look?
I like it. But
It's
eventually, what I want to do is get our little characters on like almost like
yeah.
I don't know if we can figure out how to do this, but like not like Discord icons, but like actually on the screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you can ever figure out a way to do that,
That would be a lot more difficult. And that sounds like a lot of
probably
effort.
I'll try to figure it out.
But also the pros of this Discord icon setup is that we can kind of just see as we talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
which would be, uh, it's really nice. I would kind of wish they were bigger.
Okay, let's just send out some stuff. Let's see, we got. I'm just pulling up the podcast on my phone so I can join as a viewer. Haha, look at that. We're live. My mom also does want to watch this, so keep it.
Your mom wants to watch it. That's so
She.
funny because my mom wants to watch it too. I won't send you. Don't
No,
worry.
no, no, Isaac's mom jokes.
Oh, you just said it. Oof.
You know.
You're the one that just said it.
Yeah, I did.
This is crazy. This is very upsetting. I'm
It's
triggered.
cringe.
You,
Let's quickly lock my layers. Okay. Oh, did not want to do that.
yeah. We could have started the live stream like a few moments later. Do you have to be like live in order to do all this stuff?
To get chat up, I do have to go live. If I'm going through OBS, I'm going through YouTube. I can get chat up first, but it's just much more convenient to do it through OBS because that actually lets me edit some stuff. I know Chrissy also wanted to watch, which was odd.
Yeah, everyone wants to watch, dude.
Oh yeah, we're famous.
Yeah, both of our moms want to watch.
Okay. So when should So let's just kind of get started a little bit. What
Yeah.
what were your general thoughts, at least on the show, and what you thought?
Just my general thoughts. Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of rough for me because I I actually there's a lot of good about the show actually. Did you say we just went live again? Oh, okay. Were we not live? Um,
No, we were. No, that was something
okay.
else. Just ignore
Okay.
the Discord notifications.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. I mean, I didn't love everything about it. In fact, there's a lot of things that I thought were serious, like fundamental problems about the show that weren't like necessarily like little surface level problems.
Mhm.
And I think the main problem with the show was that I think it banks too heavily on the fact that maybe League players are watching the show.
Oh, absolutely.
And as someone who doesn't
Absolutely.
play League, I have it really struggled to get my attention.
Now, I thought that the animation team absolutely carried this show.
There were a lot of wonderful parts actually about the animation. I love that. I loved it.
Yeah, the animation in the show was it was really some of the best I've ever seen in a movie. Um, but the music was really good as well. It was good. It wasn't like stellar, but I thought it was good. The story in parts could see some improvements, I thought, and some of its characters could have used a little bit more. Could have used like a little bit more. There was a lot of good characters, but I think primarily on the, especially on the villains in this
No, there was
show.
one and a half. There was one and a half good characters. I'm being serious. I'm being totally
Jason
serious.
Victor. Jason.
I don't know who Jason Victor is.
Oh, we'll go down through the characters real quick.
Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, so
Yeah.
uh, it really bothered me in the first episode. The one thing that they bothered me about the characters was that they couldn't decide whether or not their villains were Nazis.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna like you can't like if you're gonna make your villains Nazis, you got to commit to making your villains Nazis. You can't start off by telling me that the bad guys are Nazis and then be like, well, but they're also kind of like normal.
So
Well, actually, they're not so bad. It's like, but also they're Nazis. And I'm like, oh my god.
one thought I did have though about the show, especially was, I was thinking maybe as someone who wasn't like a League of Legends viewer, following the story wouldn't be too hard, but understanding the characters would be really hard.
It's not understanding the characters; it's caring about the characters that's hard.
Yeah, I
Which
can
is
see that because you didn't know who Jason Victor were, especially while if you look on like the League of Legends Discord, everyone was going utterly crazy about Victor. Like, oh my god, that's Victor. Oh my god, like what the
yeah,
hell?
like I could give a shit about Victor.
And then
Victor.
so to go down I have all the characters written right here in general what they are. So starting up, we got Vi and Jinx, our two main characters. Jinx is named Powder in the show. That's her like little pet name, but I'm gonna call her Jinx. just because that's what I know her from the game as, by her name, and from like everything else she's been in. It's basically Baby Jinx. She just goes by Powder. Vi's are like our main character. Vander is the guy who ran the pub, the big burly dude, the Chad.
But Vander's not just the guy that ran the pub. Vander is a father figure to both
Absolutely.
Vi and Jinx, and a lot of the
Milo,
not only
Milo
is
and
he
Clagger.
not only is he a literal father figure to those kids, but he's also he's the patriarch of the underworld, which is important to the show.
Definitely, yeah. Because especially, but he kind of keeps
And
things together. But we'll touch on that.
not only is he a masculine, he's like this masculine force in the main characters like eyes, but also some of the villains.
Yeah, and
Which
I
is
really like how they set his character up in the show and how it wasn't like ooh big manly man evil like a lot of things you see these days.
right.
So it was
No,
nice
you're
to
right.
get a bit of fresh air to have a real like sacrificial patriarchal figure. It was kind of nice.
I
Um,
agree.
so for the friends we had Milo and Clagger. Those were Clagger's the fat kid, and Milo was the edgy lockpicker kid.
Right.
Then we had Silco, who plays kind of as the main villain. Enforcer Grayson and Marcus were the two enforcers that we see throughout this. Deckard is the name of the boy that they got in a fight with in the opening scene, and he plays a much bigger role. I was only able to get names of two of the counselors, being Mel, and which is the super rich black woman, and Heimerdinger, which is the head professor. Which all you League of Legends fan out there, Heimerdinger. Yes, I love that character. I don't know. As someone who doesn't play the games, what were your thoughts, especially on Heimerdinger?
I don't know who Heimerdinger is.
He was the short little midget, furry midget guy, the
That
brilliant
thing?
scientist. Yes.
Well, I didn't really. It didn't come off to me that he was a brilliant scientist. He just seemed like he was an administrator who maybe is a scientist.
Mm,
He's also. I didn't care about his character.
mm.
He just seems. I mean, maybe he's interesting if you played the game, but
Yes.
I remember him. I remember him because he has a unique character design, but there's nothing unique about him.
Yeah. Yeah. I could agree with that because like looking back on it, I loved seeing him in the show, and they portrayed him much better than he's portrayed in the games, more accurate towards his lore. But it was kind of like there actually wasn't much to him other than hey, look, it's Heimerdinger. Like okay, cool, whatever. Victor was his assistant, the guy who believed in Jace's work and helped him, like you know. After we
Uh,
won't get into it, but because I don't want to spoil
yeah,
anything yet. But you know who I'm talking about now.
I think, but it's like one of the characters I don't care about.
Sure. Okay. Jace is the student that we follow. He's the guy who gets in trouble for the magic that he or the hex tech stuff he's trying to make.
Right.
And Caitlyn is his female friend. She just has quick pop ups here and there. That's more fan service. She isn't a fleshed out character. But again, it's one of those things where people are going to look at it and be like, oh, hey, Caitlyn. Oh my God. Yes, Caitlyn. And it's kind of like, okay, her character was flat. But I mean, what? She was like a tertiary character. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But do you have any things about the characters you want to finish off on?
My biggest problems are with the character, so I'll save it for a little bit later.
Okay, so probably as we get into those things.
Yeah.
So, starting out, then I kind of want to just tackle the show in order, kind of almost scene by
Right.
scene.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, because I got there's a lot that you can break down with it. So, starting with this opening scene, I have it up on stream here. We get this scene of a bridge that's kind of burning, and we hear the singing of the song "Dear Friend Across the River," and it's played with a very ominous tone as we watch flashes, very bright, just very bright flashes happening all over the screen. This is almost like Jinx artistic style. It was very almost weird. I didn't like it. It's supposed to signalize chaos, but it just felt so out of place. Just with that. In fact, this whole scene was out of place. It was a very well shot scene.
But
But
in the very beginning,
yeah, the very opening. Before the
I
title.
think I don't believe that. I think that should never have been in the show. You know
Yeah,
what?
it
But you know
shouldn't
what?
have.
I have a problem with that scene, and and I don't even need to watch the rest of the show to know why I have a problem with that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I watched 3 episodes, and that scene has had zero part in the show so far.
Yes,
So
as a
I'm
very
calling.
opening scene, it only served to reference like a couple lines later in the film of another scene that amounted to nothing other than a quick character moment between Vi and Vander. It it was a useless scene. There was no point to it.
Well,
The what was that?
yeah. Well, the problem is, I think I'm gonna call it. I don't know what I'm gonna call it when I publish my manifesto of a bunch of random stuff, but maybe the Batman's parents effect. And it's that if you if you start a Batman show and you show Thomas and Martha Wayne die,
Mm-hmm.
that happens so long before the plot. And in most circumstances, all it does is show a reason why you act the way you do,
Mm-hmm.
and actually have nothing to do with the plot. And sometimes it does have something to do with the plot, but
Mm-hmm.
it would have been better if what's actually happening in that scene. What's the guy? Vander is saving her from something or other. Maybe
No.
her parents are dying. I don't know what's happening in that
So
scene.
basically, what happens is that was when Vander led the Undercity to fight against the top side.
And there's like fire and whatnot.
The fire, I don't know how the fire got there, but basically, the enforcers stopped the violence with violence.
Right.
And basically, Vi and Jinx go up to the bridge to see what's going on. Their parents went off with the group, and they see the bodies of their parents on the bridge.
Right. And their
And
parents die.
yeah, and you see this moment of Vi trying to cover up Jinx's eyes, which is one of those things like, why the hell did you bring her in the first place? Did you not see, like.
No. Okay. So I get. Okay. Yeah, that's basically what I thought was happening.
Yeah,
But so
but
they're fighting and they go back down, and it's this show. It's like, and what it's basically saying is, look how evil the enforcers are. They're killing all these people, and which is like it has very Nazi-esque imagery. Like, let's be honest for a second.
yeah,
I mean, they're they they remind me of almost Wolfenstein, that sort of thing, but they look like stormtroopers.
they basically
And
do. I have a picture
and
of one.
it's basically just like showing them slaughtering these
There
poor
we go.
people.
On screen, I got an image of this of an enforcer. It's quite spooky.
Well, yeah, there's a problem with this, and it's like, and the first thing it shows you is how evil the enforcers are,
Yeah,
and they are intimidating. But later in the show, the enforcers aren't even that bad.
they're not.
If I'm well, they're not.
Yeah,
And then all this does is to show us why Vi had such a vendetta against like the enforcers and the top people. But the
because
show could have just
well, it's interesting.
instead of in the very first scene telling us, "Hey, Vi hates these people," they could have shown us that she hates these people,
The
and
did
then when she's well, no, that's not what I mean.
it did show
No, that's not what I mean.
because
It
well,
it
if
could have
you
it could
if
have gotten rid of the scene. They could have totally gotten rid of the scene in at least in the beginning parts of the show, and they could have just shown them in the other parts of the, when they're robbing the
mhm,
house, or and whatever, and shown her that she has this hatred for the enforcers. That, I mean, the others definitely don't like the enforcers, but she's got this hatred, and you're like, I wonder
mhm.
why she's hate these people so much. and then later in the show, it's this reveal that hey, these people murdered her parents.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So like you don't need to see Batman's parents die at the beginning of every movie,
mm-hmm.
and you don't need to see Vi's parents die at the beginning of this show, because the intrigue of wondering why this character is the way they are is better than you just saying, "Hey, look, her parents were killed."
Mm-hmm. I do want to get past
And
talking about the opening
and
shots
well,
before we
no,
move
because
on
the
to the
opening shots are
impact.
important.
Well,
Because
before we talk
what's
about the impact of the opening shots,
sure, go ahead.
because I think what happens on the bridge is kind of almost disconnected from how the very opening shot set up the entire scene.
Right.
Because, like, this is on stream, the first shot of the movie. Very shot. And we hear this ominous, dark, very cold almost tone of what turns out to be Jinx singing. Second shot, we get this very side-wanding image of this face looking onto it. Now, we don't know what this very stoic face we have on screen is, and that kind of comes into play in a later shot. As we go, we get this front image of this face. It's a very dark, almost shadowed up face, and it's a nice front shot. And then we get this image of the enforcers. But keep in mind, all these shots so far, except for the first one, are all just eye level shots. All straight level flat shots, all flat shots, until we hit this shot right here. This is the shot right before Vander picks up the girls and walks them off. We see the faces and where they're located. And this is called a Dutch angle in filmmaking, where it's this tilted, or off where the x-axis is almost rotated. It's to imply chaos. And it's only when we realize what these statues from the opening scene that they were overlooking the entire bridge scene, that's like we get this different shot and perspective of them, which I thought was really neat. I thought
wonderful filmmaking.
And then we get this shot, which is because Vander basically sees, little girl sees her parents die, so he puts down his fists, his steel fists, and picks them up and walks them off, and kind of swears to never be violent again, which I thought was weird. It's like, did these two girls' parents dying like really change your mind on your entire philosophy of fighting back? Like, did you not go onto the bridge expecting this to happen? Which I thought that was weird.
Right.
And we're greeted with this final shot as Vi clenches her fists as she watches the guards on the bridge. We get this pan upwards and this beautiful shot of a city of Piltover literally above the dust and ash and all that other stuff. Which, again, a beautiful payoff shot, but this whole scene was kind of pointless, as we talked about. It only supported a very minor scene later in the film.
Yeah, when it could have done something, it could have been better.
It could have done.
And they know. What really made me angry is because they what's the big burly man's name again?
Vander.
They know how to make someone intriguing. I mean, clearly. I mean, they did it with Vander.
Yeah.
They literally did it with Vander. Like in the show, you get that thing where it's like, whoa, what's Vander's deal? Everyone respects him, but he's sort of more pacifistic than he used to be, and then it reveals.
We are introduced to Vander literally beating a guy to death.
Right. No, exactly. And you're like, whoa. And and then you see what Vander's deal is. And they know that you can have an impact with that, and yet they fall into this trap where it's like, oh, your hero needs to have an origin story before the story starts, and it's like, well, bitch, if you played the game, then this show is the origin story, isn't it?
Yeah, this is.
You don't need an origin on your origin. It's unnecessary.
It is very unnecessary. So let's see.
But did you know why Thomas and Martha Wayne got so rich in the first place. It turns out that they were crime fighters too. It's like, come on, stop it. It's like, stop it. we don't need origins on our origins.
Yeah. Yes.
Knock it off.
If we let's look. So next we get the title sequence. That's a cover of the song "Enemy" by Imagine Dragons. What were your thoughts on it? I guess.
I don't
On the
remember.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't remember this song.
It was more fan service almost to League fans, as
Yeah.
it just showed statues of the characters in the game. That was all it was. It felt like the song
Yeah,
was
I
pretty
saw
good.
that and I was like, am I supposed to know who these characters are?
It's literally just Caitlyn in the game, Jace, Victor, Vi, Jinx. Like, yeah, those were just all it was. Now, I do want to talk about this shot for just a second. So this is the only. This is the first image of Vi we get. It is her fist. The first time we see Vi, it is just her fist, which is kind of like how she solves her problems.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. And this is also the only close up in the whole series so far that her fist isn't like a close up shot of it being bloodied. Which I thought was a little bit weird. It's almost like this idea of the innocence that she almost still has, or immaturity, which plays a big part of her character in this first episode. As we'll cover that later, but she makes a lot of really immature and, I don't know, foolish choices in how she goes about stuff. But I don't know. It was a bit weird. But she definitely matures through this story, which I kind of liked. And we'll talk about that, of course, all later. You have any thoughts? Then we
No,
kind
you're
of,
doing great.
yeah. Look at this. Then we got the shot of her and her friends climbing the buildings. They reach the top, and this is the first time that we get to see all of the city of Piltover. And Jinx kind of shows, or no, Vi shows Jinx kind of the view. And then airship comes into view. When that happens, and Vi's like, "Whoa, I want to fly in one of those things." And I just started laughing when Milo walked up and was like, "I want to shoot one of them down." It was a good comedic moment. What were your thoughts though on this show's comedic moments as whole?
I never thought it was very funny.
You didn't.
And until you're saying it right now, I didn't even realize that they were trying to be funny.
Oh.
No,
Well,
I mean, yeah, I guess it's a thing now that every show has like a little bit of comic relief, and that's
Mhm.
kind of, that's whatever, but
Yeah,
I don't care.
it's fine. If a show
It's
wants to
fine.
be
Yeah, it
funny.
is fine. These opening scenes right now, what you're talking about, here to introduce the characters,
Mhm.
and I had very low expectations for these characters, and I was right.
Well, I actually really love because you see a little character moment after this happens. Because after he does finger guns at the airship, it's like, "I'm gonna shoot one down." Vi immediately steps up and pushes his arm down and almost pushes him off to the side, as though she's still trying to protect her little sister from in any way, shape, or form that she can. And I don't know, that was a good character moment, I thought, because so throughout the show that like Jinx and her well-being is the seems to be one of the only things Vi consistently cares about through all of this. So I thought it was a good little setup. Um, then we get to the first scene of, or not the first scene, but we get to the balcony scene where they're trying to jump over the street, and this is like one of those shots where it's like where we get to see Jinx really was not prepared at all for this.
No, she wasn't. And it's a
She
very minor thing too.
she
That
is way too young to be doing the things that she's doing. And I don't know, it's like almost like Vi is showing almost overconfidence in her sister.
right.
Um, and Milo makes a really good point of like when she starts panicking, Milo's like, "Yeah, see, I told you this would happen." And everything almost goes south when she almost falls off the building. And thankfully, Vi catches her last moment, which
Which is good.
lucky that that didn't end very poorly, I
Yeah.
guess. So, um, so they eventually reach the apartment. Apparently, a guy named Little Boy, who turns out to be Echo later, gave them the tip of this place, and they end up breaking in. And I really liked the part, at least when it's like Milo's trying to lockpick the door, and Vi just kicks it in.
No, I really hated that part.
My favorite part though about that moment was he just mutters animals after she
Yeah,
does that.
which is another thing. Like I feel like they were really inconsistent with their personalities.
Mhm.
Like, okay, so both him and I don't know what their names are, Fatso and
Mayo and Clagger.
Clagger.
Yeah.
So they're both sort of really timid guys. Like
Mhm.
Clagger is shown to be a fighter, and even in that scene where they jump across the building, he like slams down like the Hulk.
He
But
does.
it's yeah, he does do that, and it's like they can't make up his mind whether or not he's like the big guy, which is what they want him to be, but
Hmm.
they wanted to make him unique, so they made him really timid. The
Hmm.
problem was that you have three really timid people in the group, and then Vi, who's an asshole.
Fair.
so so their group dynamic is like what you have three people that basically like personality wise serve the same role.
Hmm. Yeah,
It,
definitely with
it
Clagger and Milo, their personality and characters were all over the place.
yeah
It was not focused like Fire Jinx at all.
yeah, and so like he's saying they're animals, but also he's an so they said that he was an asshole to Vi. Like they're basically like or to Jinx. So like they're
Yeah,
like Milo. His one consistent personality trait is that he's an asshole to Jinx,
he is. Yeah.
and Clagger has no consistent personality
He
traits.
doesn't. Sometimes he's taking initiative, sometimes he's almost like the fool, and
Yeah,
sometimes he's the caring friend, as we see here where in the shot where he's helping Jinx down onto the balcony.
right.
It's
He
yeah.
and I have a problem with these characters that shows up later.
Mm.
It's really not that.
They get into the shop and Milo finds apparently what a nose hair trimmer or what it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Let me see that picture of the nose hair trimmer.
I got it pulled up on stream right now.
Oh, you do? Well, I can't see it. You have to. I'm watching the live stream. It's gonna be like 5 seconds before I can look at it.
But I kind of liked it. I don't know how I feel, but it's
So
like Jinx points out like it's a nose hair trimmer, as though somehow she knows what nose hair trimmers are growing up in Zon, and Jinx or Vi just tells her quickly fill up the bag before Milo fills it up with more useless items.
yeah, but I feel like a nose hair trimmer is a little useful.
It definitely could be. I mean,
Look
somehow
at that nose hair trimmer. That's not a nose hair trimmer.
that is not. I liked in the
They could have at least.
background when you could see Milo later trying to use it.
But so I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how it's used. Is it one in each nostril, or do you put both in one nostril and it like plucks them out?
I think it's supposed to just pluck him out. If this
You
even
think?
is a nose hair trimmer, to be fair.
Yeah, there's no way that she knows what it is.
Yeah, because like, does Jinx really know what a nose hair trimmer is?
She doesn't know what a nose hair trimmer is, and she certainly doesn't know what a fancy pants college like Yale nose hair trimmer looks like. The nose
Oh,
hair trimmer they had growing up on the streets looked nothing like that. these 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 aren't your everyday nose hair trimmers.
In the streets of Zon, they use 2 rocks for nose hair trimmers.
Yeah, we would just shove some sand up our nose and hope it like pulls them out.
But eventually, Jinx wanders off from the group, and she encounters a like extra room where she takes a bite of a sandwich, which was I didn't that side of her never built up on her personality even more, which was very weird almost.
What do you mean that side of her?
I don't know. It wasn't even a side of her. She sees a sandwich and she's like, "Ooh," and she's almost like opportunistic about it. But she never displays that again in the film. It's kind of it was I was hoping that I could go more in depth about her grabbing a sandwich that somebody already had prepared and eating into it.
Yeah, but okay, so if this was a normal show, a prepared sandwich sending out would be like, oh my god, they're gonna come. They're either here or they're coming home soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you prepared a sandwich and you're not there, that means you stepped out to like go get mustard or something.
Yeah. And
but instead of so by the way, that could have very well seeing the sandwich, she could have been like, speed up, drop the thing, and then when the guy shows up, she's like, she didn't even take a second thought. There's a sandwich there. The guy's probably just like he ran out of mayonnaise or something. She takes a bite of the sandwich.
mm-hmm.
By the way, I don't remember this scene. I don't remember the scene where she takes a bite of the sandwich. I believe you.
It
I
was
believe
really
stupid.
quick right before she opened up the chest and found all the blue crystals.
So that's another thing. She drops a blue crystal. It blows up.
Yeah.
But it was really confusing to me. Like, the show was trying to be like, she's really unlucky to take on missions, but she found the blue crystals, which are the most valuable thing there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was convinced that my first thought was like, well, she actually wasn't a Jinx because she found the most valuable thing there, and she decided that your bag of loot was less valuable than they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, one
but the show didn't even like try to take it in that direction.
I do want to mention real quick. If you see on the stream, when she's staring into these crystals, her eyes are blue. You see this happen when she's no. You see this when she's inventing the monkey bomb. You see this in the final act of the 3rd film when the explosion is going on around her. You see this of whenever she's holding the crystals up or looking directly at them, her eyes turn blue, but they're normally gray. And
they're normally gray.
Yeah. One thing, especially because this almost gets emphasized in the 3rd movie as a quick point, where when she's bawling her eyes out, and as she's holding up the crystals, as she's making her monkey bomb, her eyes are blue as she's building it, and she eventually wipes away her tears with her hands, and they go right back to gray.
I didn't notice that.
Oh,
that's a nice piece of subtle filmmaking.
It also does develop even further into other colors as the film goes on.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah, we will get into it definitely as we go, because I
just
thought
out of curiosity,
really cool.
Does this have anything to do with anything in the game?
No, it does not.
No,
this is
what
just
color
as
her
a
eyes
standard.
in the game?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, you can probably find it on her wiki page. Okay. Eventually, yeah. So they run out of the apartment.
Her eyes are pink in the game.
I didn't know that.
Huh.
Well, actually, we'll save it for when we get there. But her eyes are a different color almost later on. So they run out of the building. It goes boom because she drops one of these blue crystals. She didn't, which was weird because it's like she didn't know that she dropped it, especially in that moment. It's shown that in the moment that she didn't notice dropping it, she denies knowing anything later in the film. But then in the third episode, she just has this flashback of the blue ball causing the explosion. And that's what causes
Right.
her to make her bomb. And I thought, what the heck? She didn't know though.
She didn't even realize she dropped one.
Yeah,
I feel like she could have intuited it though.
maybe, but I guess that's just like a nitpick though. But
You
that's
you find a
definitely a
ball
nitpick.
of you find a ball of blue crazy glowing orbs, and you throw them all in a bag real quick, and suddenly there's a big ball of blue glowy fire behind you. Like you might be, huh? Did I drop one of those things? Maybe that's what they do.
Maybe I did. um, they're eventually running through the streets, and I wanted I took note at just how bad the guards are at using their like little rope traps. But there's the explosion. They're running through on stream. They threw these rope trap thingies that kind of spun around, and they would ensnare people. They were really bad at throwing them. They missed like 4 of them.
Really?
Yeah,
Are we talking like bolas?
kind of. Yeah, they were almost like boluses. Which
Hmm.
I guess it's hard to hit, but you would think with how good someone like Jinx could be at shooting at her age, that some guards would bother to practice throwing their boluses for like a little bit and get good at that. I don't know. Another nitpick, but it would have been better to probably see one of them get hit by the bullets and then they had to quickly help their friend up and like get
Yeah.
creative in how they escape. That could have been a lot better to see. It would have shown that maybe Jinx gets trapped and Milo saves her. And
So by the way, the
yeah,
city guards that they're chased by originally, are they enforcers?
yes, they are.
Yeah, I was wondering because
It was
when I first
extremely
got to look at
incompetent.
them, yeah, when I first got to look at them, I was like, they don't look the same as the enforcers at the beginning that were like Nazis.
They were wearing like face mask gear for all the smoke and stuff in the
Yeah.
beginning,
All right.
and they were
Yeah,
in
that makes
like they were in like combat uniforms in the beginning, as
sense. Okay.
opposed to like now where they're just in normal uniform. That's what I think at least. I
Yeah.
so I can't say for sure. But yeah, maybe what if they had a moment where like Milo saved Jinx from the Bullets? And we could actually get some character insight there where it's like even though he doesn't like her coming along and even though he doesn't I or sees her as an inconvenience in a Jinx, that maybe he still cares. Like that would have been so much better. Instead of just getting this look of, oh, we have some incompetent guards here who miss everything.
Yeah, incompetent guards are kind of like the par for the course from these kinds of movies, though.
Yeah, it's sad. I wish that we could get some good guards that seem threatening or
Yeah, right. I
menacing
wish
in
we could
some way.
get a horror movie that was just like one guy with a gun as the villain. What a
But
movie that
they
would be.
eventually get away, and it's kind of just they just ran away, and they get trapped by a gang of people.
Of
Um,
creepy Beth and boys.
yeah, one of them, like the lead guy, his name is Deckard, and it was
And
these.
that guy's an asshole.
Yeah, he is definitely an asshole, and it's sad to see some character de-evolution in this scene because there's a lot of it. Um, Milo just instantly gives up the fact that they have had a good day's catch of stolen goods,
Hmm.
which was like, okay, Milo, even though you hate like Jinx because of how incompetent she is, you are also just as incompetent, especially since he gets his face beaten in, which was
Hmm.
painful to see. Um, and then Vi makes the extremely stupid decision of throwing the bag to Jinx. She hits the guy, knocking Deckard to the ground, and instantly throws the bag to Jinx.
Yeah, which I was watching the scene. I was like, I see a lot of scenes like this in movies, and I'm like, you would just like leave, right? You wouldn't
Yeah,
even bother with these guys. Even if you had like two guys blocking your path out, you would push past them. You would just like be like, no, I'm not
like
staying.
true, but with like Vi, I guess she likes to solve things with her fists, which is
Yeah,
like okay, yeah, but keep the bag on your back. You see in the last shot, boom, it's on her back, quite out of the way. Keep it on your back. Don't throw it to your little sister. Because now your little sister that you care so much about is the target. And that's exactly what I thought when I saw this watching it for the first time.
yeah,
And she becomes the target. This shows a lot of immaturity still with Vi's character, though. Yeah, it was, yeah, not that great. But as the scene progressed with the fight scene, um, there was a lot of really bad slow motion with like these shots that are showing up on screen. We,
yeah. I didn't. I mean, I don't know why slow motion is like such a thing, but in like literally the next episode, you
mhm,
get a glimpse of Vi fighting, not really fighting, like training with the practice dummy sort of thing.
mhm,
And you don't need all these slow motion shots. It's like really quick and really exciting. And it
mhm.
was her training with the practice dummy
Yep,
was more entertaining than this entire fight scene.
it was. Now
And
the fight scene was well
no,
choreographed, but the slow motion was painful to watch.
also watching this, I get the impression that the fat kid is like the real fighter, and Vi is sort of.
The leader.
I don't even see her as a leader. She just happens to be the oldest and thus gets the leader position.
Yeah.
But watching this, like, Chubby is like the real MVP of the group. He was fighting everybody, and rightfully so. Like, I'm glad movies get that right. Like, he's the biggest one. He's bigger than all these like gang members, and he was just pounding on him.
Like in this last shot, he like punched that first guy down in the corner. He punches him to the ground and grabs the other guy and puts him in a headlock.
Yeah,
It's taken on two of them at once.
I know. I really appreciate that.
That was appreciative. And I
But
get
I
the
didn't.
slow
Up until
motion.
that moment, I get that he's a big guy, but I didn't expect him to be a fighter.
I understand the slow motion kind of where it's
I
like
get it with
we
this
watched
one
this.
shot that you're looking at right now.
This was in slow motion.
Yeah, which this one shot that you're looking at right now, where Jinx is in the middle of it,
Yeah,
like just watching them,
yeah.
actually kind of makes sense for slow motion. It's
All
slow mo, but
all
slow
of those
motion works
shots
when it's
were all
no.
every shot here was through the view of Jinx.
Let me tell you when slow motion works when it's directly from somebody's perspective, or it's like
Mhm.
you're supposed to be getting someone's view that's in the moment.
You want to get more out of the moment than there really is to offer.
Well, it's almost like because if you're in a high adrenaline moment, time sort of slows down anyway.
Yeah.
So you slowing it down gives you like the perspective of an onlooker, or like when like in I don't know what's a movie Saving Private Ryan.
Yep.
There's this moment in the beginning. It's the sound shuts off and everything's sort of slowed down a little bit, and you're seeing him look around.
Yeah.
So slow motion works when you're getting something from somebody's perspective that's like in the moment.
Mm-hmm. I
It
agree with
doesn't
that.
work when you're trying to show off a great fight scene. So it works when you're saying, "Look how horrified Jinx is to be over her head like this." It doesn't work when you're like, "Look how cool they are at fighting."
Mm-hmm. We so if any viewers who actually saw this get like a little bit rattled in the future about our take on this, we get that yes, this fight scene occurred through Jinx's perspective. Yes, we understand that she was not happy seeing what was going on around her and that she wanted the fighting to stop. It was still painful as hell to watch.
Yeah, it was a bit much
Just slow motion, slow
because
motion, slow
it was
motion.
actually it was rougher because it didn't really warrant it because the fighting wasn't even that bad.
Yeah,
Like
like
I've been in worse fights.
it wasn't a bad fight and it was well choreographed. Why not just show it off in real time?
Well, I mean the fighting wasn't that bad. Like it wasn't that horrific to watch. as an onlooker. Like the leader kind of pulls a knife at the end, if I'm right.
Yeah,
But up until that moment, it's just a fist fight,
which
and
is weird
a bunch of teenagers punching each other in the face is kind of normal.
because it's like Deckard pulls a knife on them.
Right.
I guess if you really want to look into it, it's because he knows that losing this fight, or that Silco learning that he loses this fight is probably a worse penalty than like, you know, being up by Vi, but he thinks at like the last moment, like, okay, maybe disappointing Silco is better than like, messing with this girl. So it was. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it as just a kid being super cowardly and useless.
Well, what I didn't like is that when he pulls the knife, Vi goes right up to him, which
Yeah,
is
do you want to
stupid.
go there? Very stupid.
And it's like, and this all contributes to me hating her as a character,
Yeah,
because in this fight, she's not even the champ.
she's not. It's the
Fatso's
fat kid.
Fatso's the champ. He punches this guy to the ground. He puts this scrawny kid in a headlock. Yeah, he's doing work.
I think the
And
portraying Vi so immaturely is part of the first movie because she definitely develops and grows as a person a lot
no,
through the second and third episode.
I get it, but she has to be mature compared to the other ones. You know what I mean?
Does
Like,
she have to be? Because
yes,
there
if you want,
she's only
if the
quote
concept
unquote
is
mature through their eyes.
no, that's
But
what
in
I mean.
reality she's not. They only look up to her because she's the oldest.
But I've seen no evidence that they look up to her. Like so far, where we are right now.
True. But, she planned the route. She set this whole mission up. She got information on it. She led them to the rooftops. She showed them how to jump across the street. She, like, made the call of when it was time to go from the apartment. She's the one who calls all the shots.
Yeah, but you're just like explaining merits that aren't really merits because the whole thing was a failure. But what
Even
I
if
mean is
it
like
failed.
I'm watching this like so when do we get to see when they look up to her? And it's like never.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because her role as a leader when she actually takes those steps is unseen by everyone else because
Yeah,
they're, well, we won't spoil it yet.
they've got their own shit to do.
So also, caution on anyone watching: there will be spoilers and big spoilers on this stream.
Big spoilers, big
Big
ups.
spoilers are to come. I will not hold
Uh,
back. Um, yeah, but of course, because they threw the bag to Jinx, she
yeah,
gets targeted, and they
and she
start
loses it.
running. Yeah, because
Yeah, and
the objective is the bag, not the fight.
right.
So, and she gets trapped. It's a little bit of a klutz, but she ends up throwing the smoke bomb at a guy, and it doesn't
It
work.
fails.
Which was, I thought that was good foreshadowing. It kind of showed that, like, hey, this is her thing almost, or how she tried to do something, but it fails. So she ends up just throwing the bag into the river, and they just give up. I thought that was weird. It's like it's just in the water.
When I was watching it, yeah, it is just in the water. But to be fair, it's a lot of electronics in there. I don't know if they would really survive.
Yeah.
But like there was also like she was in front of crates, and I was like, it really looks like you can just climb over those crates. Like
So
she was like
about the water,
posted
though.
up against. Yeah.
I understand it is very toxic water. The whole underside of Zon is polluted, chemicals,
Oh, it is.
water, and everywhere. Yeah, the water is not safe to go. But
Did they say that in the show?
this is in lore. The
Okay.
world's lore.
So
And it is
they
shown with
cannot
all the
expect.
smog in the green water.
Yeah, but green is just kind of like the color of water sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
So
But
and it's a very stylized show. So I, as a viewer who's never played the game and doesn't know anything about it, have no reason to believe that that was a failure. Because actually, it's funny you say that because when I first watched it and she threw it into the water, I thought it was like she was planning on coming back for it later.
yeah. I thought so
because
too.
that just seemed like the logical things. But apparently it's toxic. I don't know that as a viewer who's never played the game, and that's another thing. That's a problem with the show. Like
Yes.
you,
And it's not even if you've played the game that if you know that. You have to be a lore nerd to know that.
right.
And
So I get that League of Legends is a big game, but League of Legends lore nerds who have Netflix accounts, that they have to come up from their mother's basement
not
enough
only
to go get a job and pay for Netflix. This is crazy. Crazy that you
what
expect
I
anybody to know it.
hated most about that is it's like, okay, so they didn't go into the water because it's toxic. They may not know how deep it is, but we see Silco submerged under the water for a bit. We see Vander wading out into the water, and he's in the water for quite a bit. And it's like, how much does this water actually affect you? Because Silco doesn't. I don't even know if he gets his scar from the water or not during the drowning scene. Because it's like, I think that they implied that he got that scar over his eyes from the chemicals in the water. But in
I didn't.
previous Riot lore, Silco got his scar from fighting Warwick, which Warwick is not created yet. So,
And I don't know what any of the words you're saying right now mean.
exactly.
I assume Vander gave him his scar.
Well, so there is a lot of assumptions that Vander will become Warwick, the champion Warwick. And it was in the creation of Warwick, at least in older lore, that he gave his creator Silco the scar on his eye. That may have been changed though, or updated recently, and I may not know about that. But
I'll look up Warwick.
I already read through all of Warwick's lore and it wasn't there. That's
I'm
why I
not gonna
think
check the lore. I'm just gonna look for the character, what it looks like.
he's a giant wolf on chemicals.
That's
His
kind of awesome.
his backstory is that he was a good man who is now captured and twisted by this chemicals, which the constant dog
Wait,
references
so the
makes me think
chemicals
it's
do change
Vander.
you to. So the chemicals do change you to werewolves?
No, they don't.
The purple
Um,
stuff?
no, it
'Cause-
doesn't.
Oh, okay. Well, because like when I first saw him giving that guy the chemicals, I was like, because the way he was transforming, like he was muscling up, I was like, man, they're making werewolves, and they are kind of like werewolves, when you think about it, just like their power sets and their aggression.
Yeah. So
Man,
with Warwick, this is a bit of a tangent into the game. Warwick's alterations, going from man to wolf, were given to him by the character Singed, who I believe is going to be Silco's assistant scientist. I think he's going to become Singed. And that's another champion in the game. And yeah, that's how. And then Warwick will be Vander. But that's not confirmed at all, and so it's kind of messy. Especially this is very much sidetracking from pollution in the water, but they're very inconsistent at how much damage the water is going to do to you, which was a problem. I don't know why they couldn't have just dived down there, maybe for a minute, and then just grabbed the bag and came back up. You can hold your breath, right?
I can.
Yeah. You can hold your
Yeah,
breath and close your eyes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hold my breath and close my eyes.
Yeah, I'm sure that you'll be fine in the toxic water for a minute.
So I don't know. Toxic water, jeez.
But the kids eventually go home empty-handed. You get the shots of the streets of Zon, which is literally the undercity of Piltover, because it's mostly underground, and it's just a trashy mess. Um, and eventually they arrive at the bar, the Last Drop, which that was just the name of it. And when we're first introduced to really Vander as a whole person, I really liked how it was him breaking up a deal going south. And him really valuing the honesty of these people's words. And
Yeah, and then he says, and then what does he say? He says, Word of advice: don't threaten the guy that pours the drinks. And
Yep.
then they look into the bar, and everyone's, which is exactly what they didn't do with Vi. Like in this one scene, they show what kind of a person he is. They show that everyone looks up to him. They show that he's a really charismatic dude. So my problem with the writing is that they do everything right with Vander. They do everything right with this one character, and they forget to do it. And you know why they do it right with this character? Because he's not in the game.
Yeah.
They
Or
they
he's
like
gonna be a big plot device later.
they use the clutch or the crutch of the game to like fill in the blanks for you with characters that are already established.
Well, Silco
And
isn't in the game, and his character's ass.
who's Silco?
He's a villain. He's a scarred villain, dude.
I thought you said he was in the game.
No, he's not. Singed is in the game.
Who's Singed?
Singed is like this mad scientist man. I believe that Singed is Silco's assistant. The guy who's like testing the chemicals and
Oh,
stuff and gives them to the
who's
kid.
Silco then?
Silco is the dressed up guy with the scar on and the red eye.
Yeah, that Vander's like his.
His
Yeah,
quote
Silco's
unquote
not a
red
bad character.
Yes, he is. He is pretty
He's
bad.
he's a bad guy. He's actually not. No.
Well, I have a big rant about him later about why he's a bad character. So we will eventually
Well,
get to that.
well okay, but here's my okay. You just finish up the summary real quick. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Okay.
You gotta learn how to be brisk about summaries. This is taking forever. I'll be back.
It's supposed to take forever.
Well, no, not maybe a little bit shorter. Just like brisker, more to the point. Okay.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
But basically, we see Vander. He breaks up this deal that's very quickly going south, and he's like, "Oh, and I expected honest traders or whatever it was that they were. I forget what they were." But then the kids walk in. They head right downstairs. Vander says that he has to go. He goes and attends these kids. Of course, he's already heard about what's going up on the top side. So word spreads very fast in this world. Like, incredibly fast. Which was a bit weird, I thought. I don't know. Because the kid learned of the commotion topside and an explosion, like, after a minute, so cool. But he scolds Vi because he basically just is telling her, like, hey, like, you're looked up to. Like, so you can't be doing this. Yeah, and he just points out all the immaturity in her plan and how bad it was and how the safety of Jinx and her friends was completely disregarded throughout this whole thing. You have an explosion, you went topside, you got into a fight, you did all this other shit, basically, and it really almost hits Vi pretty hard in this to see Vander scolding her out. And it finishes up with this thing where he like holds her hand and it's like, these are not always the answer. And it's just kind of saying like you can't punch yourself out of every single issue. And well, for the rest of this episode, not much happens. It's just a couple character moments here and there. The next big scene that you really saw something happen was during the interrogation scene, where they went down to Benzo's shop, where you get introduced to Echo, and they kind of just walk in. They exchange some like sarcastic joke back and forth, which was friendly to see. It was nice, and it kind of shows that these characters have some history together. And Benzo then yells at Echo to get out quickly and that he needs to talk. But right as they are about to start, as soon as they start talking, two enforcers walk in. In come Grayson and Marcus. Uh, Grayson, we see she's much more measured in her approach to seeing the underside be taken care of, and she wants to settle this quietly, quickly. She starts hooking up with connection she has down here with people, and she just wants to get a name so she can make a quick arrest. While we see Marcus, he's much more ambitious. You know, he has room to move up with, and he doesn't care about these people. He sees them much less than himself, and he only really cares about results at almost any cost that he can get.
So
And
here's the thing, though, is that
that's
because
a
Marcus, he's the Nazi, isn't he?
no, I don't think so.
I think he is, and
He's
his
trying to do his job, but
no,
he messes up.
oh, so were the Nazis.
Yeah,
Oh, you don't
okay.
think that was true? Oh, you don't think that's right?
No, I guess. I
No,
guess.
it's exactly what I said. They can't decide whether or not these guys are Nazis. They tried to split the difference. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I actually I don't mind Marcus. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Marcus.
I don't mind Marcus that much, and
He's
I don't
just trying
mind.
to get results, and he fucks up
No,
pretty bad later.
no, he's an asshole. And I also don't mind like the lead enforcer.
Grayson.
I don't I don't like them together
Hmm.
because if she was the lead enforcer, she would not like someone like her would not tolerate Marcus's Nazi-like tactics, like total util. No, it's absolute utilitarianism. It's
Well, you see
the
that.
end. The ends justify the means. No, she passively like
Tells him to take a walk.
keep, keep keeps them at bay. Yeah,
She literally
she's
tells him to take a
she's
walk.
literally tells him yeah. She's supposed to be like the powerful leader of the enforcers. She's willing to compromise, but if you're the leader of something like that, you're strong, and we see that with her.
Mm-hmm.
She's really weak, and so if she was the leader and they had a less Nazi like enforcer group or police group, it would make sense. And if Marcus was like the leader and he was sort of alone and they showed him as Nazis, that would have been fine. Together, I really hate them.
Mm.
Like, I really like the scenes where Marcus is in charge.
I thought it was this weird dynamic of good cop, bad cop. It was quite literally what that dynamic was between the two of them.
Well, good cop, bad cop is different.
Is it?
Well,
Because
yeah,
so
yes,
this
no,
scene is introduced where Vander basically is like, I don't want to talk, and Marcus comes over and he's like, you will give us answers or we'll be dragging you out of here, which happens later. But and Grayson is like, go take a walk, and she starts a compromise with him and offers and like leaves the little capsule with him saying that this will reach me if you do decide to talk. That's quite literally good cop, bad cop.
no good. So I'm reading the Google Archipelago. So good cop, bad cop, and that is which is exactly what these people are. We're saying these Nazis. More like the secret police version of it when they're trying to get people to confess for crimes they didn't do. They
Mm-hmm.
would use good cop, bad cop. And it's not about having the two contradictions. It's about rapid changes in the tone of the conversation.
Okay.
So but that's all semantic about what good cop, bad cop actually is. But
Okay,
I
fair
don't
enough.
think that they were like actually using good cop, bad cop tactics like on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just showing like this guy's an asshole.
Fair enough.
And they're not necessarily saying, "Hey, look, we have a good cop bad cop situation." They're saying, "This one's an asshole. Watch out for this one. But this other one's pretty nice. You're gonna like this one."
Okay. Too bad she doesn't stick around very long.
No, I guess not. Although I didn't like her, so I don't really care.
I liked her. I liked her character. It was like a
Here's the thing.
measured. She was
Can I
measured.
can I tell you something about movies like this?
What?
It's based on a game. The game takes place however many years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So every character that's not too old to like that's not if a character is old enough to the point that they would be dead, that's fine. But every other character will die. If they're not in the game, they will die because they have to die in order for them not to be in the game. Or if they're minor enough characters. Major characters that aren't in the game will die.
I don't think so. Because
No, absolutely. It already. First of all, are you kidding me? It already happened.
the game is almost completely separated from the lore. That's always been League's thing, is that the lore is very separate. The champions in the game are just characters plucked out of the lore. The game has nothing to do with this world. So I get what you're coming from with other games, like with the Final Fantasy franchise or the Resident Evil games, but and I think that this could be a different case, just because it has nothing to do with the game itself.
Maybe, but that's sort of like all prequel sort of things. Like
Yeah,
how come we've never seen this character before? Well, because they're dead, and that's the only way to do it.
I'd say we haven't seen it before because this is the first animated series that Riot has really released as an actual long form show,
Yeah.
and the world is massive.
Well, if we're
So
being honest, you're saying that it won't happen.
it could.
It already did.
I guess. Yeah. It happened a little bit. It happens a little bit later.
It happens a lot. happens,
Well,
and I think it's gonna happen again.
let's move on. We get the children room scene, which I want to quickly go over. Like Jinx just thinks she's kind of useless, and Vi tries to comfort her and is like, "Ooh, big sister, I'm gonna protect you." Moment, which is kind of cheesy. And then they get out
Mm-hmm.
onto the balcony. Vi starts showing her the world through a steel pipe that somehow acts like a magnifying glass or a telescope, which I thought was really weird.
Well, it's I actually don't. I'm not sure if it acts like like a telescope, but it focuses all your vision on one point because it blocks out everything else.
I was
And it's almost like you can see it more clearly. Like if you do that with your hands,
yeah, but I was assuming that we were seeing through the zoomed in perspective of the camera.
no, I don't think so. I think it's just a focus thing.
Fair enough.
I don't think the steel pipe actually acts like a magnifying glass.
Okay. I was hoping for a second that I was
No,
concerned that they actually might be doing that.
no.
And we get this beautiful nighttime shot of the city, which is
Right.
okay. And that in enters Silco, our big baddie. And we just see a quick scene where they experiment and they show the results of the chemicals on a rat, and the rat turns around and eats the cat, which I'm really hoping that they end up making that rat be Twitch from the game. That would be a cool little Easter egg, but maybe not.
Which is again, if that's true, another reason why this show is sort of ostracizing people that don't play the game.
Amen.
And that's kind of what I felt like was going to be the biggest problem of the show, and I was right.
Yeah.
As I always am.
You're not always right, but
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
yeah. But
I'm always right. Let's be real.
this leads to the end of episode 1. Because honestly, there's not much to talk about the scene other than it introduced the bad guy and it introduced a chemical that does a thing. There wasn't much to talk about.
And what happens in episode 2?
Episode 2, opening scene. We got this. Jace is going to his room, arriving home. Caitlyn is going into her room. They say goodbye to each other. And an explosion goes off because Jace can't get into his room. He gets thrown back against the wall. And there we go. I got a picture of Caitlyn. She's very well animated. She looks really good in those pictures. Gotta
Oh, does
admit,
she?
she does.
I can't see. I still can't see.
You'll see on stream in a second.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, he can't get in for some reason.
You
There's a
can't.
chair behind the door, and then there's an
Absolutely.
explosion.
Giant explosion. But then we get
Whoa.
another useless scene. Flashback to him saving his mom, and what appears to be a wizard that comes out of a snowstorm. Now, you were probably confused as hell as
I
to
don't even
what the
remember
fuck
this.
happened. They
I
were in
don't
the
even remember
blizzard.
this scene.
There was the blizzard. The mom falls down. A mage emerges from the storm, starts casting all this magic, and he teleports them into a meadow. Now, this could be Rise from the game. The champion Rise. Another
Now,
moment
if
where non-fans are going to be clueless.
yeah,
But Rise doesn't use a staff. And he doesn't like sharing magic in his lore, so the fact he left Jace a little world stone would be weird if it was like Jay or if it was Rise. But he does a giant teleport, like celestial teleport thingy, which is his ultimate in the game. So very weird. Useless scene. Has absolutely nothing to do with the later parts of the film. All it does is be service for the line, "You were saved by magic," when he says that to his mom later in the episode.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
Pointless.
but no, right. But well, here's what's really confusing. What he teleports them into a meadow,
Yep.
so clearly not in the area of the snowstorm.
Yep.
What if they were like, what if they lived here, and now it's like, now it's like, what the fuck?
Fair enough.
It's like, where are we?
Well, considering that his mom was dying of frostbite on the ground, like,
Well, yeah. Okay.
oh,
Obviously, it's a better scenario. But what if he like kind of?
the
I don't know. I
animation
don't.
was beautiful, and it was a reference to Rise. We don't know if
Yeah.
it actually is Rise or not, but for you as someone who doesn't know, Rise is someone he's a champion who scours the world looking for powerful magic, and he tries to prevent other people from getting a hold of it, while he himself is one of the most powerful magical beings in the world. And that's
Right.
his whole get up. And that's about all that
That's
there
his.
is to him.
That's his shtick. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's got a shtick. Not a
Absolutely.
staff. A
Oh no,
shtick.
he doesn't. He doesn't have any staff or stick. He just has his hands.
Yeah. Not a staff. A shtick. He has no staff. He's got a shtick.
Well, but then fast forward inside the apartment post explosion. And we meet the dean's assistant, the dean being the counselor, Heimerdinger.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, whatever. There's not much that goes on here. But at least for anything worth talking about. So let's fast forward to the prison. The prison cell. And we meet the little dude Heimerdinger. He's like a little furry, guys. One of my favorite characters in the game. I enjoy playing myself some Heimerdinger.
I would have
And
no idea because I don't play the fucking.
he's the little turret bitch. You know, like the
Yeah, he's like Torbjorn.
yeah, he's like Torbjorn from Overwatch, but worse.
He's not as good as Engie, not even close.
But Jace basically tells him that, like, oh, I want to discover magic and combine what is basically in the game this idea of hex tech, which has always been Riot's thing of magic and technology combined.
Right.
And it's really shitty because it's not consistent in any way. It's not consistent magic system. They just call this, and this hex
Right.
tech. It's like their other group.
Right.
Very lazy. It's a very bad magic system. So, shame on you, Riot. This is a flaw in your movie. It's a flaw in your game. It's a flaw in your world. It's a flaw in your movie. Ha! Just
Hex,
because it's
hex,
a reference doesn't mean it's good.
hex tech.
Yeah. It.
So it's supposed to be science magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, the name is stupid.
Yeah. They don't put a name on it till the third episode when he's like, "This is your dream. No, this is our dream. We will call it, or it's called Hex Tech," and that's the only reference that there is in name to it. But the idea is, I'm gonna just go by that. Um, Heimerdinger just thinks it's dangerous and unwise. That's all his character is, sadly. He's like wise and experienced in some ways we have never seen before. Even though
Right.
he's a Yordle, so in lore in Yordle, he's like naturally magical. So I don't know. It's whatever. Something that you wouldn't have known as a non-league nerd.
No, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, absolutely not. Oh, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues in this story, especially for translating to a standalone film. And I think that's where the biggest failings of this show have come. Um, Next we get to the boxing scene where the kids are laying low. They say enforcers never come down here, as are enforcers standing outside the building.
Right.
Vi sets a new high score on the punching bag.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Cool. What
Yeah,
bothered me? It
okay, here's
bothered me.
another thing I have.
Yeah.
Up until like halfway through the second episode, all the entire show was whoever was making the show clearly likes Vi, and all they're doing is waving around their favorite champion and being like, "Look how cool she is." She's immature now, but she's still super cool. Look how cool Vi
I
is.
don't I don't think
That's
that's why.
no,
I'm
that's
gonna
exactly what they were doing.
so my
And I
theory.
know that's what they were doing because they take for granted that you know that everyone looks up to her,
Mhm.
and that's why they don't show it. They just tell you when the guy sits her down and goes, "Look at those kids look up to you." They just they're the biggest problem with the show has to do with the showrunners taking like wanting to ride on the back of the game
Mhm.
and just assume that everyone watching it has played the game. So that's why the best parts of the show have nothing to do with the game,
I could agree with
and
that.
the worst parts of the show have a lot to do with the game.
But so my thought on why they chose Vi and Jinx as their backstory is because this is a very focal point, at least in overarching lore for uh it's like a focal point for a lot of different stories and where they come together for different champions. And it is not fleshed out at all. And that's why I think that they made an animated series on it and why they chose this part. Because Piltover has been like a blank slate outside of the character Camille's backstory.
Right.
So, which I really hope that they show Camille later in the series as a fan of the game, not as a movie watcher. But so that's also a problem. But it just I think it's because they really wanted to get this section of the world fleshed out.
Right.
That's why I think.
No, right.
Um, that's going into in the best good faith interpretation I could approach it from. To be
Yeah,
fair,
so they're hanging out,
Mhm.
and then
Jinx
the
is
enforcers.
somehow so good with guns.
Is she not in the game?
She's a gun girl in the game, but
Okay.
she's like 10 years old, and she didn't miss a single shot.
Yeah, which is rough, right? But I mean, I guess if it's like Nerf, right? So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's not like real recoil, but they should have shown her miss at least a couple shots. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, that bothered me when I saw it. I
It's
always
like
don't like that.
that
Like
it was
you're
it's unbelievable.
so yeah, and that's like a suspension of disbelief thing when it's like when you because if you're 10 years old, you can't be John Wick
Yeah.
because if you're John Wick, you can rely on the fact that you're 55 or 60 and you've had a lot of experience, so when you are really good with guns, you as the audience can be like, wow, he's really good. But if you're 10 years old and you're really good with guns, the audience is like, she's magic.
Yes, it
You know what I mean?
breaks suspension of
Because 10-year,
disbelief. And she's
yeah,
not magical in any way, shape, or form. She's just a
right,
street girl who's bad at most things she does.
right.
And what especially bothers me about it is like someone like Vi is shown to constantly be training, constantly
Right,
be practicing punching and fighting.
right,
Vi, or Jinx, I guess they say that she does some training, but you don't just get good at shooting.
right,
You can't just be good at shooting a gun.
right.
That takes a lot of skill and a lot of training to execute
No,
well on.
absolutely. And even though handguns seem easier than long guns, the truth is, like, really that you have a third point of contact, like contact with a weapon when you're shooting a long gun.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it's a handgun, you're not only are you aiming, you're being accurate, but
Mm-hmm.
you only have that 2 points of contact.
Yeah,
So you really have no stabilization there.
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, and this is another problem with the movie, and probably I think
And
the one of
I'm
the
going
few
to assume
points.
it's because she's like has really good hand-eye coordination,
Yeah,
and she wouldn't have been that good if it was a real gun. But the fact that it was a Nerf gun with no recoil means she can be really accurate.
I think it was as fan
That's my
service.
right. That's my favorable interpretation of it.
She's one of the gun characters in the game,
Right.
so they made her good at guns. Like, hey, look, maybe she does have a niche, and they show, which I'd be fine with. Maybe she hits like 70 or 80% of the shots, and her
Right.
friends are still blown away by that. I would still be impressed by that. Like, oh my god, that's really good. But
Yeah, or she could have just went up against
Milo and beaten him,
Milo directly and beaten him. Yeah,
because that's what they
she
were
got to just
doing.
right.
So that was weird. But I like how the guards, an explosion happens. We have no idea how, but explosion happens. A guy flies through the window. In complete disregard for the guy who just flew through the window, the guards walk in. And they're like, search these people. And Vi has the crystals on her. Like, why?
Yeah, Vi has the crystals
Or
on
no,
her.
no, no, Vi. Jinx. Jinx
Yeah.
has the crystals just on her. And
Well,
yeah.
I'm sure she doesn't like. She knows that they're valuable, but she didn't expect guards to be there.
And well, that's the thing is, it's like the guards start searching them, and they have to run because of it. And Vi tells her, you need to hide those crystals." And Jinx says, "No shit." Like, come on. If it's no shit, why weren't they hidden? Well, why would you just carry them around on you at
All
all
right, you're
times?
right.
It's a plot. It's a plot device where or it's a contrivance that they needed to have to push forward the plot from this scene. They needed some tension,
Right.
which is, it was sad. Yeah, but luckily Echo, the kid who's always watching, provides them an escape route with a ladder.
Right.
The kid, sadly for Echo, he is the kid who sees everything and is always watching. Doesn't work out for him in the end, but he sees some shit he shouldn't. But we get to the council scene. We go back to the counselors and we're introduced to Mel. And I just liked how she got the counselor a baby toy for his birthday.
That's funny.
Just to get him to almost agree with her to vote, she gets him a baby toy, and throughout the council meeting, he's just playing with it. He's going to town on this thing.
But to be fair, if someone gave you a little like baby toy, you'd be messing around with it too.
Oh, absolutely.
Those shapes into holes things are fun.
I don't know what that shot
I love shoving square pegs into square holes.
is. But not much happens throughout the court scene until we get to the point where Jace spurts out, I was trying to make magic. And
Right.
I really enjoyed watching each character's reaction to that. Because it did almost like a pan around the room. So if we zoom over Mel, and she just holds the same gaze. She's almost like curious, but she hesitates for a moment when talking. Almost like she's
Right.
calculating the next response. Something that we see kind of with her, or how she's portrayed. The ornate woman with the weird shit around her neck and the fingers. Or no, not wasn't him. That was the gay guy. The one who
The
looks
gay
gay.
one.
He offered the counselor like the nuts, and he's like, "What are you trying to do? Kill me? I'm allergic to this." He stopped tapping his fingers, almost because it's like tapping his fingers because he's bored with this trial, and then he's mentioned magic. He just instantly stops, like because his over obsessive, overrated personality just is suddenly peaked.
Mm.
Yeah, this guy, and he actually like opens up his eyes, which was interesting. Heimerdinger just looks shocked. He looks shocked in his chair, like because he was assuming Jace was going to just go on with the script he reviewed in the jail cell with him, and in the following scene he like puts his face, or in the following shot he like puts his face or a hand over his face because it's like, oh, he fucked up. Um, the counselor whose birthday it was, he just stops playing with the toy for a minute and looks up. Um, the and then my favorite reaction was Victor's in the crowd. He took a visible step forward and then narrowed his eyes. He looks like almost intrigued. This is I think the most important reaction on how it plays up later. And anyone who knows Victor's lore, as opposed to how he is in the game, this
Yeah,
is going
who's
to
not
be
me?
like extra candy for you.
Mm.
Victor is one of those characters where he's going to be flat to someone like you, but someone in the game who knows the lore in who Victor is, I am very intrigued in what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, I'm so glad the showrunners
Yeah, took that
include all
into
these references
consideration.
that
Absolutely.
I wouldn't understand. Like, I
Yeah.
have no problem with these sorts of references, but if you're like leaning on them to make a show that should stand separately from your game and like the game lore, well, not stand separately from the game lore, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it should be a contained story
Yeah,
with a
it's
beginning,
just
middle, and end.
so if you do not know Victor, I'll send you a
I
quick.
don't. Don't even worry about it. I don't care.
Okay. You don't want. Okay.
No.
That's fine. um but because he came out, Jace gets expelled. But his mother, he's only expelled because his mother comes forward and is like, he's sick on the head.
Right.
And like, let him come home. Which is one of those things. She's just happy to have her son. Cool, flat mother, typical mother, you know.
Yeah.
We're then treated to the scene where what's his name? Marcus makes the bargain with Silco. Not much goes on here. We don't actually see what goes on, but we see that they meet.
Right.
So quickly going over that, because their meeting is something to remember for later. So we get
Okay.
home after the trial, and we see how upset Jace is. This establishes all of Jace's ambitions and his priorities that he wants to do his work. His work matters most to him, and I thought, but his mother's just happy to have him. I thought this shot was a really cool shot of the picture. You see Jace holding a hammer, throwback to the game. That's just a game reference because Jace uses a hammer in the game of League of Legends. So, I get Easter eggs like that are good to people who have played the game. Where it was this quick little side photo. But this is the scene where the line "Magic save your life" pop up.
Right.
And it was utterly useless. Yeah. So, this, what were your thoughts about the scene of Silco and Deckard, and when he takes the chemicals for the first time?
You mean when he gives him who's Sulco?
Silco.
Who's Silco?
You don't. Silco's the evil man with the red eye.
Okay, and who's Deckard?
Deckard is the boy. The boy who
Oh.
becomes the werewolf. That's his name.
Oh, that was Deckard?
Yeah.
From the beginning, from the first movie.
Yes, that's Deckard.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the same character. My bad. Yeah. I didn't really pay attention to the scene. I kind of figured something or other was happening, and I saw him take the liquid and become a werewolf, and I was like, oh, he's a werewolf.
Okay. So, this is
I
one
was
of
pretty
those
zoned
scenes...
out by this point.
It was a cool scene. It had a lot of really nice shots.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah, it was like nighttime.
Yeah, it's underground or underwater, but most of the shots around Silco are like obscured in some way,
Right.
which was really cool. I thought, at least. The pinnacle though with this scene is the music as Silco's giving his evil bad guy monologue, because he's a cool, edgy dude with no characterization. He hands the vial to Deckard, and the music has been building up throughout this whole scene, and it climaxes the moment that Deckard takes the vial by going utterly silent. The music just drops dead instantly. And when he throws it up to his lips, drinks it, and it is only after he's done and he has smashed the vial on the floor, the music continues again, even louder than before. And I thought that was really well done.
Am I supposed to have an opinion on that? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, music.
Okay, cool music.
Yeah, cool music.
It's well done. That's a good filmmaking thing, though. It was neat.
Yeah. Yeah, music's crazy, and because if you watch old movies, they don't use music the same.
Yeah.
And it's like wild how much, like, if you like, the cameras are worse, but like, what's with it? And it's like, whoa, it's the fact that they don't have music. No, it's crazy, isn't it? If you think about it like that, it's like older movies don't use music the same way, and it shows. And you don't even like, even if you don't know, you get a different feeling.
Yeah,
music
can add a lot to a show.
Yeah.
But this is where I have my whole spiel with Silco as a character. So basically, he's a cool bad guy, edgy lines, with a unique scar, with a scar on his face like every other villain. That's not characterization. Vague ambition and willingness to do evil is all that we see from his series, at least so far. And we're going to need to see a lot more from him to actually be an interesting character in future parts to come. He's super one-dimensional with no actual goal ever established. And this is something does with too many villains, where the bad guy is just someone willing to fight wrongdoing with actual action, and they are demonized by this. And this is shown with a lot of examples with Riot's villains, being Silas, Silco, and Zerath being the three main from their own respective stories, where they are the people who have been wronged and they are villainized in the lore because they're the ones who are willing to take action. This isn't necessarily bad writing, or a bad villain, but especially because Riot as a company especially wants to condemn violence because they have a big audience in China which is not going
Right.
to let them do that. But when they're over here in America trying to play both sides of the stories, which they have been very public about, they don't. They want you to think for yourself, and they want to present these issues as they are, this political issue between the two cities, and it's just a shitty way to write your villains if you're going to have them done this way, and if you're going to try to hold that side. So yes, Silco sucks as a character, and his role in this film is interesting, and that is all it is. And the impact he will provide to other characters is huge, as he plays big connections between characters and he moves the plot along. But he doesn't move the plot along for his own sake ever. He moves it on for the story's sake. And at the end of the day, that's still just a poorly written character.
Yeah. Well, in defense of villains.
Mhm.
He so far he's barely been in the show.
Mhm.
I mean, really, if I have problems with a lot of the characters, and I don't love him as a villain, but if we're being honest here, as a villain, he has time to like work out his plans, and it
Mhm.
seems like he's in the game from what you're saying, so he's not gonna like die. So he has time to
Mhm.
develop as a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, really, I don't have a problem with that at all. Like if he's sort of vaguely defined in opposition to the heroes, but also in opposition to who they're in opposition to, so he's like this weird third party of evil.
Mhm.
Um, I don't really mind,
For a
and it seems
company
like
that
we
wants to tell a complex story, can you just have such a basic villain?
it's less about who the villain is and more about what the villain represents.
Hmm. I get. What does he represent though in this series?
Well, it seems like he's just what does he represent? Well, he's against
Upside.
the he's against the upside, the enforcers,
Mm-hmm.
but he's extremely utilitarian
Okay.
and in a way that what's his face just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
the only good character.
Vander.
Yeah, Vander. He's sort of representative of this sort of anger, and
Mm-hmm.
actually he's a lot like Vander in that sense.
So
So we don't know. Yeah,
my
what's up?
problem standing alone isn't how Silco is just portrayed. You don't
Right?
you don't know League of Legends lore,
No,
but
I don't. And it shouldn't matter.
Xerath and Silas are two other villains
It
written
shouldn't matter.
exactly the same way. This
Yeah.
is how
So
Riot writes most of their villains.
which I don't like. Bad people can just be bad. Which so I really don't like complex villains. I mean, I like them sometimes. Like if you think about, I keep talking about Batman because I like Batman, but Mister Freeze is a complex villain. The
Yes.
Joker is not.
Like, yeah,
And
Mr. Freeze wants to save his wife.
mhm.
Joker just
Or he
wants to
or
watch
he
the world burn.
right, exactly. Uh, and there are some villains that have complex backstories but aren't so complex anymore. Like the Scarecrow has a
Yes.
somewhat complex backstory. He was abused by his father, but his motivations are no longer like complicated.
Mhm.
So I do have a problem. I don't. But the problem is if they're trying to make this conflict between the enforcers and the terrorists, they basically are terrorists. Let's be real.
Mhm.
So you have the totalitarian government and the terrorists. What like are you supposed to make a pure evil villain as a terrorist? Well, the government's bad too. So they're opposed to the bad government. They just use horrible means to oppose them.
Mhm.
That and if that's how you're writing your complex backstory, it's basically the only way to do it. So
And
even if
well,
he
they do have those terrorists though, and that's quite almost what they are. They're a brutal police force. But Riot has always written their villains that Silco is villainized because he's willing to fight that. And that is the through line with all of their villains.
their villains are villainized because they're willing to fight.
Yes.
and they can fight in horrible ways,
Yes.
and they do, and that's a problem.
Yes.
So the problem so much isn't with his specific writing; it's that Riot can't figure out how to write a different villain.
Yes, that is my big problem with him, and it shows here in that he is the villain who's just willing to fight. There's
Are there
not
like
much more.
Are there like factions in the game or something
There
like
are
that?
there are several different factions.
So if the factions are warring,
Mhm.
and they're all sort of shitty a little bit, then none of them can be pure evil,
Mhm.
unless there's a pure good, purely, if at least not good, then purely for the people faction. There
Mhm.
is no pure evil faction to oppose them. So if they're all sort of shitty, then none of them are totally shit.
Mhm.
So in this world they've created, that's the only way there is to write a villain. Someone who uses bad means to accomplish a goal that other people want to accomplish in a better way.
Or to accomplish a bad goal of something that's being denied from them by a greater force. Like when Xerath stole the Ascension from Azir, or
I don't know what
Silas.
that is.
League fans will know that. You don't need to without going down too much of a rabbit trail.
Okay.
Silas was prejudiced against because he was a mage, and locked up by Demacia, the Kingdom of Demacia for it. He broke free of his shackles and used his enemies' weapons against them.
Are we
And
on episode 3 right now? Just out of curiosity.
we're near the end of episode 2.
All right. Well, here's my main problem with the show, because we're already kind of there.
Mhm.
The show does nothing. The show does plenty to make me to like plant little seeds of like each character's got their own problems.
Mhm.
The show does nothing to make me want to like any of the characters that are left.
Yeah.
Really.
And the game
they're
relies on you knowing what the characters are for that last little
yes.
bit.
You need to watch. You need to like Jinx and you need to like Vi, and in order to do so, you need to play the game because the show's done nothing to make them likable characters. They show somewhat made Jinx likable by making everyone so mean to her, but then she goes off and she kills the only good character in the show.
And then it's like the last good characters remaining are the potential of Victor, Vander, Jace. I think is pretty well done.
Yeah,
The
so
student.
the last good characters remaining are none of the main characters. They're all sort of side characters.
Jace is a main character. I'd say he's like the third most main character behind Vi and Jinx.
He's the scientist character.
Yeah, he's the student.
He's involved in a side plot though. I don't really think it's the same.
He's the head of the B plot.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So the B plot characters I like, and the dead A plot characters I sort of like. I mean, I like one of them. Okay, but just continue. We'll go on.
We could probably crank to the next couple scenes really quickly.
Yeah.
Jace visits Caitlyn. Caitlyn basically tells Jace that his name is worthless anymore. His parents won't let them see. This is big for Jace. Can't see his best friend.
Hey, this is romantic subplot.
It's not.
And I don't. It is.
No, it's not. Jace and Caitlyn are not in a relationship in any way in the game.
They are, but
I could ship it though. I could ship it.
No, but but they are. It's just sort of the implication.
True. Like in my notes here, he can't see his best friend or girlfriend. We don't know which yet.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot. So you're saying it's not in the game, and I'm like, okay, but the implication of that you have a male lead and a female lead is that they're getting together. That's how it is in every show.
So what's interesting is
and
that
they're not
Caitlyn
platonic.
Caitlyn and Vi become like best friends in lore. So we know where the show is going.
Yeah, this is not platonic at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this sort of scene, like there are ways to make platonic friendships, and this is not it.
Well, this scene gets even worse because Caitlyn just says, "I guess I'm a misfit too," because she was sitting out in the rain.
Which is cringe. Yeah, totally cringe.
What the fuck? This show has not shown anything of Caitlyn so far. And it's like the first line, or the first real line she gets, other than, "We should help Jace at his ceremony," was, "I guess I'm a misfit too." This has not been built up in any way, shape, or form to fall in with her character.
Okay,
that
so
hasn't been shown.
Yeah, as someone who doesn't know the character, I didn't see any problems with that.
I don't
I-
even know what her
the,
character's supposed to be.
yeah, the dialogue was cringe. As far as I'm concerned, she's just the love interest, and she's filling that role perfectly.
She's the
She's
girl sitting out in the rain.
yeah, she's vaguely female. She'll do. Romantic subplot achieved. Next.
Yeah, okay, and then the mom gets angry. Cool.
Yeah, mom gets angry. Whatever.
The scene
Very,
cuts
very
very
elitist.
quickly. Well,
Yeah, very elitist.
yeah, because her mom is Jace's patron and was on the council.
No, right.
So the scene cuts quite quickly, and we get Marcus and Grayson, and they're before the council, and the guy who's the one metallic, the tall metallic counselor whose race was eliminated by magic is like, yeah, no, turn every building over until you get results.
Yeah, so this Warforged is like, first of all, his race, he's a robot.
Yep.
He doesn't have a race. My race was eliminated by magic. No, you're not a living thing. I don't know why this guy gets a place on the council at all.
That's a, like,
Yeah, he should be in the supply closet.
he should. He should be in the arts and crafts style.
No, really.
Uh,
And the council sort of affirms Marcus's view of what to do.
yes. Which is big because this is when Marcus starts to really take action with his plan.
Yeah, so they become Nazis, but they still can't decide whether or not he's a Nazi. So
Yeah.
the council's like, yeah, turn over every house, go search them. You're the Gestapo.
Yeah.
But also, they're kind of not Nazis.
At
and I bet they're gonna try to make Marcus sympathetic, but in my mind, he's already a Nazi.
Mm.
You can't come back from Nazi.
So, with the apartment scene where the suite that was raided, Jace is about to kill himself.
Right.
He's at rock bottom. He's lost his friends.
As you do.
He's lost his education. He's lost his name. He's lost everything. And right as he's about to drop, Victor walks in.
Yeah, and Victor's like,
him, I believe in you, in your work. Victor basically also tells us about how his life's ambition was not to just be an assistant, so we start seeing his motivations come in. But the moment where Jace was like, oh, I don't even know your name, and the camera zoomed in, and he was like, my name is Victor. League of Legends fans have been going crazy over that. I'll just tell you that.
Is he a villain?
Victor?
Yeah, his name is Victor. People just tend to, if your villain is a doctor of any sort, you might as well just name their first name Victor.
A scientific doctor taken to an extreme. In the game, he has basically replaced most of his body with hex tech in the game. With this idea of, I'm going to make myself ultimate perfection.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then League of Legends players are going crazy, and we as the audience who hasn't played the game don't care. Okay.
Literally. It washes right over the audience members.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad. And that's one reason why I'm so interested, because I know that his ideals are like ultimate perfection for humanity, especially considering the fact that he's a cripple. That there's a lot of potential. Yeah, he's walking with a cane, and he says, I was a cripple from Zon, but the only thing that carried me like to the position I am at was my own ambition.
Right.
And now he's a very high position in Piltover.
Mm.
And so I thought, it's like, there's a lot of potential with that character. But that's all it is at right now, or as of now, is just potential.
Alright. We just finished episode 2.
Yeah.
So you realize that we've been going on for longer than the episodes actually take to watch.
Hell yeah.
Okay, next episode.
We open up with this shot of
Yeah,
Vi, or not Vi, fuck, Silco, floating in the water,
drowning.
and he's doing an evil villain monologue about drowning.
Yeah,
It's a cool monologue, but it's a monologue nonetheless.
I like monologues.
Yeah, it's like
I
it's
don't like hero
peaceful.
monologues. Hero monologues suck, but villains can do monologues all they want.
He's doing this monologue about how drowning is peaceful until the rage within you starts to like come out. And
Here's a question: if you were in Pearl Harbor and you were on the boat and you jump off, but when they jumped off, the oil floats to the top of the water and catches on fire.
mhm.
Would you have floated to the top and burned alive, or would you have just take the deep breath in and decided to drown instead of burning alive?
I do not know. I couldn't tell.
Because there are men who literally had to make that choice. They said,
Okay.
"Am I going to voluntarily drown myself, which is supposedly peaceful, or am I going to go try to survive? Very likely not survive. You can't survive that. You're just being burned alive in the oil. They
I
just
would
burn you guys."
probably say uh that's a
But
hard one.
if you just gave me the option, I'd say I'd drown. But here's the thing:
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm like mentally strong enough to just take that deep breath in if I didn't try floating to the top. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I guess. I'm the guy who would try to swim under the water.
The oil goes on. Like you'll never find your way out of there. I mean,
Okay,
unless you
fair
were
enough.
already in the water when it caught. Yeah, the oil spreads very fast.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because it's different consistency than the water, so it
Mm,
separates. I do not
yeah,
know.
it's
But
a hard question, right?
yeah, we see that he was betrayed by a person.
Yeah,
We're only given a figure. We can tell it's Big Burly Chad, though, quite kind of easily
yeah.
by the outline.
We saw that somewhere. Like, yeah, we know who that is.
Yeah. So we pick up right where the episode left off.
Yeah.
Vander locks Vi in a closet or the basement, and then the guards come for the arrest. Now, I thought this face that Grayson did, it is after he, let's see, what's the line? The look on Grace's face is one of pure shock. She understands instantly what he's doing and it's kind of showed by her next line of "I will not lock Vander. I will not lock you up." When like Vander says, "You will not deny a condemned man one last smoke," or he says that to Marcus. And on stream, you can probably see the picture.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was a powerful moment right there. So it was a good character moment because she realizes what is actually going on and what Vander is doing. She tells him, "You're the one who keeps the peace down here." This further plays on Vander and him, how he is kind of like the hound of the underworld, as was said
Right.
earlier. And yeah, the
So what is the underworld? Is it like literally under the city?
yes, it is. It's kind of under the city. It's across the river and under the city. Uh, if you want a quick lore breakdown of how it was made, basically that part of the city was built on unstable earth. It used to be the two cities at the water's edge, or
Mm.
basically they were at the opening of a river, and it was built on unstable land that eventually caved in, collapsed. Oils leaked the pollution everywhere, or factories leaked pollution everywhere, and it's all just smog built up down there. And now it's run by crime lords, and they've kind of just rebuilt on top of all that rubble. And that is how
Mm.
Zon was created, because you got these giant holes in the ground where that's just how it is.
I kind of pictured that it was like literally under the city, almost like
Mm-hmm.
old cities. Like actually, there's like legitimately cities under cities in the United States, a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I pictured, but I guess that makes more sense.
It's
I
across
think
the river, and it's almost like terraformed down
hmm. It's
along
okay. So
cliff
that's
sides and stuff like that.
yeah. So that's not nearly as interesting.
Um, this next scene, we get from Vi's perspective in the basement, was I have a lot to talk about with this scene.
The Nazi scene.
The arrest scene with Vander.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, basically, so we get. Oh, we shouldn't probably not not that next picture. But Vi's locked down here, and she hears commotion going on outside,
Right.
and all we get is the shot through this cloudy window, and then it gets covered in blood. All we
Right.
see is this mess, and it zooms out, and we get this kind of gruesome picture of Grayson. Sadly, she has died. I liked her as a character,
Yeah.
and
I didn't.
her blood is everywhere. Silco emerges from the smoke. If you look, he's got a very slight Dutch angle to his camera lens that matches with his head tilt. I thought that was kind of cool. But when he walks out, Benzo walks out after Silco and tells him that basically go back to where you came, you're a slimy dog, and Benzo is instantly killed by the shadowy figure too. This second murder is both witnessed by Vander from front and center and Echo off screen because sadly he sees everything from off screen. Um, Vander has a bit of this cringy slow motion reaction. That this is a bad slow motion because we see it's not from his perspective, but we see his reaction to his perspective. So it's a very out of place slow motion of his friend being murdered. Marcus is also horrified by this event and he starts like clutching at his helmet and he yells that this was not part of the deal that which was arranged in the last episode. But Silco gives him the money and tells him that deals change. But basically, when you break down, I thought this was cool as shots happen. Um, so we get this first dead body in window. It is a standard flat scene. Next shot, flick to Silco. Slight Dutch scene, or slight Dutch shot at an angle. Flat scene with the slow motion of Vander's reaction. Then we get this other Dutch scene of Vi's reaction from the basement. It cuts back. We get the steady scene, or the steady shot from Silco. Just all flat as he's looking calm, collected. Then it goes back to Vander, and as he's on his knees, he is on. It is another Dutch angle. Cuts back to Vi. Her angle has tilted even further. Then we cut back to the vision, or to the scene of the building and the bloodied window. It is flat, as though the only absolution and consistency in this world, or this moment, are the dead or the inanimate, which is, you see this big. Cut back to Vander. Another Dutch angle. Cut back to him getting knocked out. A slight Dutch angle on that. Vi's reaction to him getting knocked out. Dutch angle tilted even further from the last one. And now that Vander's unconscious, his camera instantly shifts back to normal. Vi's, as her perspective continues falling apart, tilts even further. And as his body collapses, now we get the rest of the shots from Silco through the Dutch angle. Vi's tilts even more, and as Vander's body hits the ground, flat, Silco's face and expression being cold, and basically no reaction. Dutch angle again, and then the scene resolves back to flat and ends with the finality of an overhead shot. I thought that was really well shot for a scene. I'm sorry if I bored you with that.
Yeah, and it's really funny because you're saying all these things, but my view doesn't match up with me listening to the words coming out of your mouth. So you're like talking about scenes, and I'm looking at it, and it makes no sense.
So, the Dutch angle is a
Well,
tilted
I know what
angle
I
across
know what a
the
Dutch angle
X.
is. Yes, no, I know
Okay.
what a Dutch angle. No, I get what you were saying. I'm,
Hmm.
but you just understand that I'm watching the YouTube video, so
Okay.
it's 5 seconds. So it's like I don't know, 10 seconds behind, maybe more than that.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's like you're talking about scenes
So,
that
the
haven't come
only
up yet.
normal shots were either of dead bodies or like the building side or unconscious bodies in that.
Right.
Those were the only level shots in the whole
No.
scene.
Right.
Everything else was Dutch angles of whenever there was conflict or tension with someone. And if you watch with each of Vi's shots, it turns more and more and more as she watches more unfold outside.
Right.
So,
Well, it's also yeah, you're saying as if the only consistency thing here is the dead.
mhm.
Well, the things that don't move don't get Dutch angles. Very simply. I
Yeah,
mean,
basically.
bridges do sometimes, but you're showing steady shots of the dead because they're not moving, but Dutch angles also sort of show.
Well, I said that was the only thing with absolution was the
Right.
dead.
Well, it's also to show like emotion and movement
Well,
and
Dutch angles build tension. They show that's what they're primarily used for.
it's
And
from
then a
mood. Right.
steady,
So it's
yeah, the
well, I wouldn't
steady,
even say it's just tension, but also when you're showing angles, it's not just like very how'd you say it? It's not matter of fact like a straight angle is.
mm-hmm,
When you're showing something at an angle, you're also like showing a certain perspective on it.
mm-hmm,
So you're looking down on someone, it's you make them look smaller. You're looking up on someone, you're making them look bigger,
mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what I was.
I thought it had a lot of really good. I thought it was just shot very well,
Yes.
and I went into like each like little shot because with this scene especially is I basically just covered the whole scene with those like 10 shots because it
Right.
was shot, 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 shot. There was very little motion in those scene in each shot. It was very quick. And so yeah, I thought and then the nice overhead shot that almost gave this sense of finality too as Vander's body is being dragged off by Deckard. And yeah, and Marcus is like, what the fuck did I just witness?
No, right. Yeah.
Like, and we're left, the scene closes with Vi sitting up against the window and she is just crying. Cut back. This is like scene or like mood whiplash.
Right.
A very quick scene of with Victor and Jace as they're trying to get their Victor's or when they're trying to get Jace's hex tech to work.
Right.
They're in the room together doing science, and we see here we really see that Victor has much greater ambitions, and that's why he's taking his risk or he's taking a risk on Jace's new tech or magic or hex tech magic.
Right.
And I hope they expand on this because it'll give me so much more to talk about. Then we get probably one of the probably the most powerful scene from the film, this show or episode, of where Echo comes down looking shook as hell. And I think this was the big moment because Vi pretty much stops her crying, and the first thing she does is go over to comfort her friend.
Yeah. Some character growth from Vi.
Mm-hmm. She understands what needs to that she needs to help Echo because he just witnessed his father figure's death right
Right.
before his eyes. And I think, especially after the talk that they had after Vi tried to turn herself in, she's shown a lot of development up to this point in the
Absolutely.
series, which is good.
Absolutely. Yes.
We praise that.
Right.
And Echo just kind of breaks down her arms. Yeah, whatever. And we cut to the factory. We see some of Silco's motivation here. It's he wants to cause chaos for respect and to create opportunities. I guess he's too cool for characterization. But I guess it
Yeah.
kind of tells us what he wants. But that's not
Hmm.
characterization. Yeah. He's just kind of evil bad man, and this is again a huge problem with his character. But we get to learn that they are close friends, and this is where the second reference, our K9 reference, comes into play, where Silco says to Vander, "You were always just a lapdog," which is the second line that people are saying maybe Vander is Warwick. It's a K9 reference.
Right.
Whatever. Cool.
What a downgrade, because Vander looks so cool and Warwick's like this bitchy dog.
Mm-hmm. Cool eye shot.
Mm.
There you got just to finish that scene. Then we catch up to the professor's room. Mel catches Victor and Jace. This is where we get to see the payoff of the look she gave during the Council of Curiosity. Um, of where she's like, "I'll give you guys a night," and she agrees to turn a blind eye. This is only just a payoff, I guess, if you notice that look, if you paid enough detail or attention to detail.
Yeah, I
So
didn't notice the look, but I definitely noticed her as sort of that type of person, I guess. I
a
don't know.
sympathizer.
She not a sympathizer. She's not being sympathetic like, "Oh, I'll give you a night." She's, I don't know, curious.
Mm-hmm.
She's very she's almost like, I don't know, like has a very feminine but like sort of strong presence. I don't want to say manipulative. I don't know if that's it. But yeah, very, very personable. I mean, she gave the guy a children's toy for his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
She's she's very, yeah, she's a people person,
Mm-hmm.
and she does that, and she can help herself, and like a I'm having a hard time characterizing her, but she does have a very consistent personality.
Yeah, like she can read
Almost
people
like,
very well. Like she got the counselor a baby toy for his birthday, and it
no, you're right,
fascinated him.
absolutely. Yeah, she's good at reading people. Maybe I'd characterize her as, I don't
And
know, like I'm trying to think of a Game of Thrones character that would work. Cersei's the bad guy, isn't she? I'm
no,
not gonna say
but
Cersei. She's like
yeah,
Daenerys. She has that sort of, well, she is. She's got that sort of somewhat strong but also still caring and sympathetic way about her.
hmm
She's not quite so domineering, but she's definitely got a firm presence.
yeah. And I'm kind of excited to see what the Riot does with her in the future because, sh like we know for a fact almost from what has been leaked that she's going to become like a secondary or maybe even a third main character in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I like her.
Yeah, she's very good.
And this is like her and what's the guy's name, Vander or whatever.
Yeah.
That's that's how you build a character. You give them consistent personalities. Sometimes they do good, sometimes they do bad with those personality traits. Sometimes they develop, but you
hmm
can't just like pretend that your character has a personality. You give someone a consistent personality. Doesn't even necessarily have to be likable for you to like the character.
hmm
As long as it's like there, you understand what their thing is, and they act in ways that make sense with their motivations and
hmm
their sympathies, all
Character
that sort of stuff.
consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big part and a big way that I judged this show
Actions
by.
actions have consequences,
Hmm.
and characters have motivations.
Yeah, which is one big
Wonderful.
reason why you watch other movies like the Star Wars sequel trilogy utterly failed because it had
Right.
zero character consistency.
Right.
As we get on with it, the room preparing for action, find the others get ready to fight to get Vander, and they leave Jinx behind because it is way too dangerous. This is a
Right.
very understandable, but Jinx wants to help. She's been told that family sticks together, which is why she feels abandoned. And
Right.
on the way out, Vi just straight up tells her, "You're not ready," which kind of, I guess, sucks, but I don't know if it
But
warrants the reaction that Jinx gave.
which is actually, I mean, actually good for Vi. Like,
Mm.
listen, Jinx isn't ready.
Yeah, she most definitely is not. And this is definitely a big step in maturity that, again, that we see for Vi in her decision making. She's finally taking action, also.
Yeah, she's being a leader, and a
But,
leader is going to be like, I'm not going to lead you into something that you can't.
yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, Jinx's overreaction is very much an overreaction, I think. And she invents a Jinx bomb, I guess, by using the the Hextech crystals and the monkey. And she goes
Right.
off to save the others. So foolish. And it is cool because in this scene, we see her eyes turn blue as she creates her monkey bomb with the crystals and remembers the explosion. It's only after she wipes her tears away that her eyes return to gray.
But you know what? I don't blame Jinx for doing that because I feel like that's what Jinx would do.
Mm. Yeah,
Just
trying to
as
be
like,
helpful. Trying to be helpful is definitely in her character. She wants to be helpful. But I think her
it can't be helpful.
overreaction to the situation, it was a very like understandable situation.
But you know what? She's had these sort of insecurities. She's overheard them talking about how bad she was. She messed up
Mhm.
for the team in the past. She's not just trying to help. She's also trying to prove herself to herself, and she's trying to like prove that she's worth something.
Yeah, both to herself
Which are
and everyone else around her.
which are selfish motivations, by the way.
Yes.
Like I'm just gonna like I liked Jinx up until this point, but she does have these very selfish motivations, which actually makes sense for her.
Hmm. And because
Uh,
it's like you constantly see her desire to fit in and be good at something. It's
yeah, because in
almost
a
what
few
she's
minutes
always upsetting her.
I'm gonna shit all over these characters in a few minutes. I'm just trying to give the
Okay,
devil their
fair
dues.
enough. So yeah, she very much overreacts in that picture. Then we
Yeah,
get to the almost the factory scene. I'm going to mainly skip the lab experiment and how that ended and the success because there really wasn't much to talk about. I mean,
yeah,
it
woo,
was,
success.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
it
really
was funny watching Heimerdinger quickly short walk with a stern look on his face into the lab, knocking on the door and saying, "Stop this lunacy at once."
Yeah, that was funny.
That I
Uh,
enjoyed that moment. But
right.
beyond that, there wasn't much.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom again.
Oh boy.
um, well, yeah, come on. You can, yeah, you finish up. I think I'll be back to give my opinion.
Oh, I have
You
so much to talk about this right
yeah,
now.
you talk. You just talk.
Okay. So, in the opening of this scene, we see Silco does a very pathetic, menacing, slow clap into view. And it's kind of funny because he's like, "Congratulations. Like, you made it in. You've fallen into my trap." And it's just really weird. But we do see some big character moments that do come up, at least I think, where they're more of payoffs of Vi stands up between her friends and the thugs to start to fight them off with Vander's old steel fists. We got Jinx. She starts to climb the side of the building to help her friends. Milo drops the lockpick as they're trying to save him, and Vander reminds him to stay calm and that he can do it. And Clagger starts looking for a way out. So yeah, big character moments where they each start playing to their individual strengths. If only Clagger and Milo were actually given more characterization on this, as their own characters, this would have been so much better. But basically, Jinx finds a small perch and watches through the window. Just keep that in mind. It is a small perch that she is on, uh, with a window to see what's going on. And basically, Vi just starts to kick butt, and Deckard gets given. Oh, those are all those. Deckard gets given the chemicals, as Vi is starting to beat up all the minions, and this time he grabs it almost like it's an addiction. The look in his eyes, that he has with it, how quickly he grabs it, almost snapping it from Silco's hands. He grabs it and like he really wants it, and he drinks it and begins the transformation into the creature that he is. And he does that, and Vi, of course, attacks him, and it does not go well at all. And with basically Deckard just grabbing Vi by the neck, this brings in a good character moment for Vander, because immediately, oh, we got that picture. But basically, Vander starts just yelling at Silco, instantly trying to compromise over Vi. He just reminded him, this is between you and me. Ignore the girl, let her go. That is Vander's big thing, is about these kids and their protection. But eventually, he throws her to the ground. She gets out, runs into the room, and they lock the door. And Deckard approaches his door and starts punching it. I don't know why this picture is in here, though. But this is when Jinx is like, oh no, my friends need help. And so she releases the monkey bomb. It starts walking down the little aisle, basically clapping the symbols together. And it's her idea of protecting the others. And this is a problem with Jinx, where we see she hasn't developed anywhere like. She has not developed anywhere near as much as Vi has in the show. Which kind of rightfully so. Like, she's still a young girl. And she's more concerned about her bomb working and being useful than the actual safety and the protection of other people that she has now put in this situation. Something that her sister has learned through this. And the bomb basically explodes. What the hell? Come on. And we get the 4 separate perspectives through the bomb. First up, we have the assistant, who is basically going to be singed. He's kind of engulfed by flames, and we're never shown what happens to him. The next up is Milo and Clagger basically get crushed underneath some rubble after being thrown up against the wall. But Jinx is thrown back off of her perch. The fall should have killed her, but as she's falling, there's just wonderment in her face. And she's like looking at her bear as it falls and touching almost the lights around her. For her, it's a magical moment of, oh, this worked. This finally worked. And that's all that she seems to care about in the moment, which is kind of sad. Silco gets thrown behind a wall by one of the minions and protected. And then we get Marcus he sees the explosion from a distance, and he's like, okay, I see something's going on over there, so he goes over to investigate after regretting like everything he's done so far. Starting these shots from the perspective of right before the bomb goes off was very weird as a creative decision. It should have just played one shot right after the other, probably, showing each side, hearing that ding, and then showing through a different perspective was a little bit jarring and very repetitive. And I didn't see much upside to showing it that way. The music in this just kind of plays as normal, and after the explosion settles, it is accompanied by mostly just all Dutch angles. Again, we get these kind of more natural shots of the kids' bodies, which are shown multiple times. And then, but it isn't until Vander actually hears Vi's cries beneath the rubble that he actually starts to fight, which is again another moment where it's like he's kind of like the weak old man now who, as was said, who isn't willing to fight for a cause. But as soon as he hears that Vi is still alive, he actually starts to fight again, and kind of just shows how much he cares about his family and how much they mean to him. And that's when he grabs two makeshift fists, which were initially his chains, and starts to fight off Deckard. He lands a few good punches, but to his avail, just thrown on the ground. He can't fight this monstrosity before him. And kind of bless. But he gets up because he's not fighting for himself. He's fighting for his family. Fortunately, and that's kind of, just his whole character. Fortunately, he gets stabbed in the back by Silco when he does get up. But Vi, she's now twisted, stuck, contorted underneath the door that blew up. She was trying to hold back. And she's given the shot where it's basically just forced, and all she can see is the smiling head of Jinx's bomb next to her friends' dead bodies. And she's just in tears, sobbing, very understandably, now that she's seen that. She witnessed the murder out in front of the store. She witnessed the murder of her parents. She's now witnessed the murder of her friends next to a laughing monkey bomb. She doesn't even fully know what's going on. This is way more than any person should have to go through. And we see almost all that tension come out later on. But after getting stabbed, Vander turns around, grabs Silco by the neck, a position that they have been in before. And then we get the flashbacks of the drowning, because the drowning was the only good opening scene that actually was supported by the rest of the film. It played a big part in the dynamic between these two people. And so he stabs him in the gut with the knife and pushes Vander off the edge. But luckily for Vander, he somehow falls next to a giant crate of of the toxic vials or whatever it is. And somehow they didn't get destroyed in the explosion. But I guess it's whatever. It's whatever. He takes some to stay alive and utterly comes out of nowhere and kills Deckard. The transformation speed here was extremely inconsistent with how long it took Deckard to transform, at least, or the rat. He transformed almost instantly. Transformation getting up there just way too fast. Should have not happened. But he basically turns around to Silco and yells at Silco because he wants to extract revenge for what the fuck Silco has done. As far as Vander knows, Silco caused this. He has no idea. So, but the building starts collapsing now under the explosion. And Vi's in danger as she's still unconscious on the floor. And so it's picking saving Vi or getting Silco. And Vander stays true to his character and chooses to rescue Vi. And grabs her from the burning building, jumps out the window or the wall to get. And Silco goes free. As Vander dies on the ground below from bleeding out from his wounds, now Vi is forced to watch as her father figure dies in her arms. This is the last nail in the coffin for Vi, basically. And it's at this moment that Jinx runs around the corner yelling, Vi, it worked. Vi, it worked. Despite all the chaos and the tragedy around her, Vi realizes that, or no, Jinx realizes her thing worked, and that is all that matters to her. And the validation of her sister is now what matters to her, which is consistent with what we've seen so far, which is good. Very good. Of course, Vi is utterly traumatized and disgusted by what has happened and the idea that her sister caused this. This sudden rejection now in the sight of Vander's dead body confuses Vi almost. She starts compromising with herself, saying, I intended good, I tried to do well, which is almost, I guess, a new side of her character we haven't seen. I guess it's possible that she could be this way. And it makes sense that someone might try this, especially a young girl who doesn't understand the scope of what she's just done. So it's interesting, and I hope that they develop more on this. And Vi is just fed up with everything that's happened. She told Jinx disobeyed her. Jinx came. Jinx has just killed everyone that she knows or loves besides the younger sister. And this is where Vi fails. Nothing could have prepared her for this moment or this much trauma, I guess. And even though Vander's last words were to her was to take care of Powder, we see Vi grab her Jinx aggressively by the face, and we see Jinx bleed for the first time this series after getting punched in the face and grabbed by the jawline. And we watch as a trail of blood drips from her nose onto Vi's hand, amidst Vi yelling at her. And as Vi sees this, she looks at her hand, and for the first time this series, she now sees it is the blood of her little sister on her hand, and not someone who actually intended harm. And Vi, again, is, especially with everything that's going on, is just not able to handle this. And I don't think anyone could. And so she just runs off as her final failing in this scene. She wanted to get away. She needed to. This was too much for her to deal with. Nothing could have prepared for this. And it leaves Vi begging for validation from her sister as the rain begins to pour down, as we see her laying there next to Vander's body, yelling. But this is where an interesting thing happens. Because Silco, as he said earlier, where other people see chaos, he sees opportunity. And he goes up to console the little girl. Vi
Just
from
so you know,
what?
I've been back for a while now, and listening to you monologue to yourself about the intricacies of this movie is just the most entertaining thing ever.
Thank you.
Not because it's good entertainment, but because I like the idea that you're sitting alone in your room looking at a computer screen talking out loud.
I'm trying.
He's trying his best.
I'm pretending to talk to people out there on the internet. No one's gonna hear it.
Yes. Yeah, so Jinx is destroyed at this point. She's lying next to the body of her dead father figure, and her sister's just abandoned her.
Yep.
So our bad guy approaches her,
Mm-hmm. And takes her in his
and
arms.
he takes her in his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he take her in his arms? Well,
He
he's
sees quote
the.
unquote opportunity.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Isn't he Vander's younger brother?
Yes.
I think he's sympathetic to her.
I think so too, because he was left behind, or she was
Yeah.
just left behind.
Yeah, and that, I mean, even though Vander's not technically her father,
Mm-hmm.
he sort of is, and this sort of makes her his niece.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So now she's got an uncle who appreciates her.
But this is for the payoff of where we see Marcus seeing the explosion from the distance. He comes in and takes away Vi, arrests her. But his last words to her were basically, hush, if he hears you, he will kill you. Which is very true.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
and with that final shot of the movie, before I change
The show, yeah.
or yeah, so we see her crying, all that. She's left tearing up. She gets arrested. Before I go into the final photo I have, do you remember the eyes that I was mentioning? The
Yeah,
blue eyes.
yeah.
The final shot. Jinx's eyes are now purple
Right, purple,
or pink.
which is the color they are in the game,
Yep,
apparently. Now, I wouldn't know this as someone who doesn't play the game, and you didn't even know this
I didn't.
as someone who does play the game. So this was a stupid shot.
I think it's a powerful shot.
I
It's a
disagree.
it's a good shot.
I didn't notice that her eyes were changing color. I noticed that her eyes were red from her crying, but I didn't notice her eyes actually changed color.
Well, I think so. The final lines of Silco is we'll show them together.
Right.
And then that is when her she turns her head a little bit and her eyes open in almost acknowledgement, now filled with more anger.
Right.
And
This is my you know what my main problem with the show is? No, we get it.
yeah.
You know what my main problem with the show is? Now that we're here,
Mm-hmm.
the show leaves us with there's two problems. The show leaves us with no characters to root for.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that they're trying to show both sides, but when you're trying to show both sides, what you want to do is you kind of want both of them to win.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I want nobody to win because I don't like any of the characters.
Yeah.
I am not
Vi
rooting
is
for
at
any
utter
character.
rock
Marcus
bottom.
sucks. No, Vi is a horrible person.
She is.
Jinx just killed my favorite character. And Marcus and the other guy are literally bad guys. So now,
And
both the
Vander's
main
dead.
characters, and Vander, the only character I really liked, the only main character that I liked, is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, if you here, actually, this might be a more fundamental problem than even having dislikable characters. If you haven't played League of Legends, or if you're not a player, the show is incomplete. And in,
I wouldn't say it's incomplete, but you miss a lot.
no, it's absolutely incomplete. No, it absolutely is. And I don't mean it's incomplete in the sense that like it's incomplete from a narrative perspective because these are characters that are undeveloped in the show that
Oh yeah.
you have to have somewhat prior knowledge on of them in order to like find
Yeah.
them interesting.
As
So
standalone characters, they are incomplete.
the show is absolutely incomplete if you haven't played the game. And
Okay.
that's why it does very little to try to make the characters likable for an audience member, because it relies on you knowing Jinx and Vi from the game.
Okay.
So what are your final thoughts?
I thought if I wanted to rate this out of 10, I would give it a 7 out of 10.
If you play League of Legends,
No, as a movie. Actually,
no, as a
six and
show,
a half. As a show by itself, 6.5.
I I would recommend this show to anybody who's played League of Legends.
I would too.
Absolutely, I'd say 8 out of 10. Amazing art, amazing directions. You have those characters. If you've never played League of Legends, this is a 4 out of 10, and I wouldn't recommend it
I I would
because
say
it's
it's
not
probably about 6 because I've
it's
seen
it's
some
so
really
average goes
bad
out.
stuff. There's a lot
And
of really bad stuff out there, and I think that this is above average.
yeah, but my problem is just from a narrative perspective.
Okay, from pure
In
narrative, 4.
no, incompleteness is, it's almost like you can have everything, like you can be perfect. You can have perfect animation and perfect characters,
Hmm.
but if you miss one thing, even if everything else in the show is perfect, it immediately plummets because incompleteness is the big, like it's a big no-no.
It is,
You
yeah,
can't have you can't have a decent show that's not like complete from a narrative perspective and from
character
a visual perspective.
from a character
And
perspective.
I don't know if I'm describing it rightly. Incompleteness is the word that I would use, but I'd say everything needs to be at least a 50% for it to be decent. And if you have 10 scales,
Hmm.
like characters and plot and whatever the scales are, and all
Hmm.
of them are 150%,
Hmm.
except one thing that's 20%, well the show sucks because it's not complete.
I could
It's a
agree
half
with that.
complete show, even if everything else is perfect. And that's what if you haven't played the game, that's kind of what the show is.
Hmm.
It doesn't work
Sure.
if you haven't played the game. So I think from the coming episodes, I hope they do more
Completeness.
to flesh out the characters for people who haven't played the show and to flesh out the world for people who haven't played the game.
Because yeah, this is only the first act.
Right.
We
No,
have
it's only but
yeah.
the first act should be setting up the characters in the world,
It should be,
and
yes, but
it's set up the conflict just fine.
you can
But I
also set up world and characters in the second
no, you're
act,
right.
though. You can.
I'm worried that it's only gonna start making the characters somewhat likable in the third act, and that's gonna be a
Yeah,
problem.
I think that they're going to focus on more secondary characters in the second act before having
Right.
the third act be a more finale thing, and so I really am not going to bet that they're going to try to develop these characters even more, and that they're going to
No.
try to go off the fan base, kind of pushing it as this great
Right.
thing, because a lot of people are rating this thing stellarly.
Which, if you've, I mean, again, if you played the game and you like this kind of show,
Mhm.
absolutely go ahead, rate it stellarly. But you can't. You really like. It's almost like, um, actually, I wouldn't even say that. I was gonna say it's almost like if you didn't watch A New Hope and you watch The Empire Strikes Back, but
Yeah.
even that is like more complete than this is as a
So
standalone film.
I don't want to shit on another YouTube content creator, but like I think there is definitely a lot
Yeah,
of blindness. Hold on, there's a
you're
lot of
barely a you.
blindness in this um community towards how good this show actually is. Like so
Mm-hmm.
the content creator Nukrit, I like his content a lot. He has a lot of really good
What's the
stuff.
creator? He's a YouTuber.
Yeah, Nukrit. And he does a
Nicrit.
lot of he does a lot of like measured and and like responses to stuff, and he's really good at going in depth about stuff.
Right.
But he went ahead and said that this was the first piece of media he's ever rated a 10 out of 10.
Holy crap! Now. Oh my god.
The
The mental
idea
retardation.
the idea that you could ever make something that's 10 out of 10 to be absolute perfection, at least in my book,
Right.
means you couldn't have done anything better.
Absolutely. And you, uh, like, who are you, Jesus? Get out of here.
It's like a 5 out of 5 I consider average, and then 0 out of 10 is nothing. So
Yeah,
like,
maybe if you were literally God, you could write a book that everyone that nothing could possibly have done better, and
hmm
that's just right with the amount of detail.
hmm
But
and
you're not.
as a League of Legends fan and as a
I would say
lore fan
an
who tried
amazing
to
piece of media
enjoy
is a
this,
9.5.
so as a League of Legends fan and as a lore fan, I found this show to be around a 6.5, almost a 7,
Yeah,
as trying to judge this from a movie perspective. Because I had all those pieces. I had,
right.
I got the Easter eggs, I got the details. But unfortunately, a movie cannot cater to a specific audience.
No, you're right.
It needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet as its own thing. And I can definitely see how that not knowing that stuff, especially as you, as someone who has not seen League of Legends content, can how that would definitely ruin it. Maybe not ruin it. I think you could still
And
enjoy it for what
it's
it
not like it has
is.
to go in depth on everything in the world. Like
Yeah.
it didn't even talk about um the toxic water, and I really didn't feel like I missed out on much about that. But apparently that's a big thing in the city that you know about.
hmm
But there's definitely things that like the show doesn't even try to get you invested in those characters because it assumes that since it's like familiar characters, you're already invested in them,
hmm
which is not good. That's bad writing.
So I think we have officially been talking longer than the first 3 episodes'
And
actual
then the
full
first three
runtime.
episodes, yeah,
Well, we covered a lot.
we did. You did.
And do you have any like
Maybe
last things that we should talk about?
no. I think I pretty much covered it all.
Okay. I've finished my 13 pages of notes here.
Maybe try to whittle it down next time.
Yeah,
I don't think we have
maybe.
to go scene by scene.
Well, I don't. There was so much to unpack that I didn't know how else to do it
All
justice.
right, that's fair.
There was a lot of character moments and a lot of little Easter eggs and candy moments and parts that were well shot. I was like, I'm just gonna go scene by scene, and I'm gonna skip the parts of the movies that had nothing, which was like half the second half of the first episode, the second third of the second episode, and
Absolutely.
the
No, you're right.
middle of the third episode. So we did skip a lot. There was just a lot to talk about. But I think on that note, we're gonna call it here. So,
We are. Yes.
to all you non-viewers out there, and maybe future people to watch, let's just say peace and enjoy the rest of your day or whatever time it is for you.